I haven't been copyright claimed on the Undertale music yet, so
Fair enough.
yet being the operative term. Ugh. Do a little stretch here. Take my work pass off my neck. For some reason, that was still on. And add. Hate it when it does this. Not stream only. Let me hear it so I can tell if it's too loud.
I guess I should talk too, so you can check audio on my end.
Yeah, I already did. Look fine.
All right, cool.
Take this hoodie off. Fucking work hoodie.
Does it work?
Well, it's reflective, so technically, yeah.
That sounds less comfortable than a normal hoodie, though.
You know, it's actually not as bad as you'd think. Because, like, the reflective parts you don't really feel anyways, like the actual, like, plasticky shit. And the rest of it's just really brightly colored fabric. So, it feels like a normal hoodie with, like, some weird spots. Like, it's not as, like, lenient in the arms.
I guess, yeah. That checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is episode 163. Alright. Good fucking god. It's been a while. Set some more stuff up here. I should probably tweet out that I'm live. Although, if anybody actually cares, they already know. Nobody gives a shit anymore. I'm old news. You should just replace me on this.
Old Man Winters.
Yep. Did you buy a Powerball?
No.
What would you do if you had $1.3 billion?
Probably find a place I wanted to live and live there.
Would it be in the States?
Yeah,
Would it be in the state you're in?
probably. I like having New York City close if I need it.
I was gonna say, would it, like, just be in, like, Manhattan or, like, some nice area of New York?
I'd rather not actually live in New York City.
Because of
Rather
terrorist attacks.
And it's just like, I like having it at hand if I need it, but I also like being able to get away from sort of the Manhattan just sort of kind of sucks in a lot of ways too. So
Right.
it's very like there are parts of it that are great and there are parts of it that suck. So
You know what I thought I would do, like, if I had that much money, and this isn't even a lie? If I won that, I would take a screenshot of everybody who follows me on Twitter and send them all, like, PayPal them all $1,000. Just for the hell of it. Because, like, when you have $1.3 billion, who gives a fuck about 1,000?
yeah, kind of.
And 1,000 is, like, enough that, like, if somebody's struggling through school, paying for, like, books, or, like, can't make ends meet for, like, the week, and they're waiting for their next paycheck to, like, buy food and stuff, that could really fucking help somebody.
Yeah.
And then also, I would buy John a gaming PC so he could learn what he's been fucking missing by sticking on consoles.
Yeah, if I had 1.3 billion dollars, I think I would think about getting VR stuff.
Oh, like, I would totally get VR stuff. I actually did that test thing, like, is your computer ready?
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, it's totally over ready for that. The problem I have, though, is that I don't have enough ports for it. So my quote-unquote upgrade would be buying a PCIe, like USB ports, and those are like $20. So,
Yeah, my computer is not good enough for that.
what's yours lacking?
Processor and and video card are not good enough, either of them.
The processor actually is like, you actually need a good processor for that shit. Because I looked at the specs and stuff, and they need like, it says i5, but it's like a new i5, which is
Yeah.
like better than the old i7s even.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it needs some power for it for sure.
Yeah, because my computer's 2 years old at this point, and I got the like generation that was just going out because it was cheaper at the time and still like good enough for stuff. Like my computer runs everything fine.
Sure.
Literally, the only thing I've had any trouble coming up with is uh, the Oculus Rift, or I guess if I wanted to, if I had any interest in streaming like really heavy games.
Yeah.
But the games I want to stream are not high end, so I haven't had a problem.
Selfishly for me, I don't stream in 1080p 60 like I did for a little bit because it makes my experience a little choppier than I like. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, you know what? Fuck the viewer, 720.
Mm-hmm.
Also, since I'm not partnered, I don't have like high, medium, low, like off
Yeah,
the bat sort of thing.
Yeah.
So like there's just a good portion of people that like if I stream at 1080 60 and they don't have like really good internet, they're just getting buffering all the time.
Yeah.
And that's bad. So like this is just a no for anybody who wants to try streaming. Like unless you already have like a fan base or something and like you're going to be able to get partnered or like get those quality options up right away, 720/30 is like what you should be streaming at. Otherwise people will complain about buffering and leave.
Yeah. It happens.
It happens, yeah. And Twitch has been shaky at best lately, so like you don't want to kind of put more load on their end, really.
Yeah. Twitch.
Now that AGDQ's over, though, things can go back
Yeah.
to normal.
Yeah.
I've fallen so out of love with that fucking event.
I found a bunch of things I liked. Like just particular runs that I liked.
Yeah.
Like the 4-player Majora's Mask 100% run was really good. It's like a 5.5 hour run.
That's the type of stuff that you really can't do anywhere else.
Yeah.
Though. Like, my problem with it is that, like, for the people doing, like, a single game or whatever, and they're streaming by themselves, like a single-player experience thing, it's just, like, the worst way to watch them because they're reined in by, like, sponsors and people with, like, corporate interests that are running the shit now. They can't swear. They can't, like, act like themselves. So you're missing out on their personality and just kind of, like, them, like, their whole experience, like, if you watch them separately. And that's really a bummer.
It's a much different thing. It's the only thing that's really interesting about it is people actually showcasing interesting stuff that, like, if you're getting technical about explaining it, is really good. Like, that's what it's still good for. Particularly, like, stuff where people playing can't talk while they're playing it a lot of the time because it's so hard and they need someone else on commentary to help.
Yeah.
Like, there was another good run, is the blind Punch-Out race.
Yeah.
That was really good, too.
Was that Sinister again?
I think so, yeah. I think it was one of them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was probably Sinister and the Punch-Out Wii guy that I can never remember his name for some reason. That dude's real good, though.
Yeah, it was. So the other part of that was it was a really good race. Like, it was really close.
Yeah, those two are good at that fucking game.
Yeah.
They're really good at that game.
There's a really good Pokemon. Like, after they did a Pokemon run, there was just a glitch showcase for Pokemon stuff of glitches. A lot of them I hadn't seen before. That was cool.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that was the best stuff, really. Like, and then the Taspot stuff. Some of it wasn't so great. They did this thing of like a 4-way race between two tool-assisted teams and 2 actual speedrunners, but like the game they were using was some student project game that it just wasn't interesting to watch. They took total control of Super Mario World and turned it into Super Mario Maker, kind of. So they tried Twitch plays tries to make a level.
Ugh.
It broke. It just, the funny part was just they broke it entirely. So all the graphics were fucking fucked. They just like had to press up too many times and scrolled over the screen till the virtual memory was just fucking
Good lord.
garbage. it was just dumb. They did a task brain age thing where like they were just inputting drawings of shit because
Yeah.
that's like a solved game.
Yeah.
They can do whatever. There was like a really funny 4 minute of like task plays Mario Kart 64. It's like just the Star Cup. It's like a 4 minute thing. That was actually kind of impressive.
Hmm.
Because it involves the what you can do in the task is you like jump off other kart racers to like jump over the goal, so you don't have to go all the way around most of the time. Just really dumb.
Peter saying he watched the Blast Core run because they had a Rareware dev on the line.
Yeah, that
That's
wasn't the
cool.
only. Yeah, that wasn't the only. There was some other. There was like a game Snapshot. I think they had a dev on
Oh,
a phone
Kyle
call.
Pulver, probably. That's his
Something.
game.
Yeah.
That dude's okay. That's an okay guy.
Yeah.
He really likes Left 4 Dead.
Hmm.
Like, the stuff that they... Like, the game design and, like, mechanics they introduced with Left 4 Dead.
There was a Coda run for Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the beginner's guide. It's like, oh shit, Coda.
No. Well, that's like the hardest thing in Crypt of the Necrodancer, where you can't lose the beat.
Yeah.
Like, and like there are like 10 people that have even done it. So seeing a speed run of that, you pulled it off, was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still don't love that thing.
Yeah, my biggest problem with Crypt of the Necrodancer is I just think the music past the first zone isn't that good. It's
Yeah.
like, if the music were better throughout the whole thing, I would like it a lot more.
This is the thing I have a problem with when people talk about that game and say, well, it's the best music, like, all year. It isn't. Because, like, the thing is, people that play that game generally are casual and kind of shitty. And that's fine, because I'm in that camp. That's totally me. And the thing that game does well is that it puts its best foot forward right away, because they know that's the level you're going to hear over and over and over, and put kind of the shittier ones later.
Yep.
So, like, they're smart about it, and the best tracks they have in the first, like, world or whatever, the first 3 levels.
Yeah.
And that's why people think that game actually has the best music, when really it doesn't. Undertale has the best music. The music in Undertale is really good. There's a lot of actually really good soundtracks that came out last year.
I think of games that weren't rhythm games from last year. Undertale is probably my favorite soundtrack overall.
Well, I mean, yeah, rhythm games need a good soundtrack, though. So, like, it's kind of... It's weird. It's one of those things that it's like... It's hard to say, like, oh, this rhythm game has a really good soundtrack, because you just take it for granted that since that's what the game is about, it should. So, like, they're just doing their job. But, like, yeah, it's still an important thing. There have been rhythm games with really, really shitty soundtracks before.
Yeah. But that's actually one of the things I've been playing a lot of, is I bought a bunch of rhythm games and been playing them on handheld stuff.
Yeah. Like Persona 4. Dancing
Well, see, because I loved that game so much, I went out and decided to try like all the big rhythm games that came out this year that people said were really good.
Uh-huh.
Which included that Hatsune Miku Mirai DX game that came out on the 3DS.
Yep.
That game's fun.
That game is fun.
That game has a weird thing where, like, because they play full songs, there are like parts in the game like where there's like a break, and it's like, and I sort of lose my focus for a part.
Yeah.
It's just like a weird thing.
That game
And
doesn't
then
have memorable music either.
It has some really good tracks. There's a couple songs that I really like.
There's like
For the most
nothing
part,
that you
it's-
would just like find yourself humming though. Nothing really sticks.
No, but there's stuff that's really good for a rhythm game that's like really fast, that hits beats really hard,
Yeah.
which is like music I really like. So there's this one song. It's the reason Wayward has the number, the 524 at the end of his name, was because of that song.
Oh,
Which
really?
I learned, yeah.
That's great.
I learned that. I was saying how good that song was on Twitter, and he said, "Yeah, that was the reason I have 524 at the end of my name." I was like, "Oh, cool." And he pointed me to like some more Vocaloid stuff, so that was cool. Yeah, that game's okay. But my big thing with playing that game is like realizing, oh, the Vita is a much better handheld for rhythm games.
Sure.
Like just the way it's set up, the feel, and like the like symmetry of it works much better. So like, so I played also 2 rhythm games on the Vita. One of which is this game, like Super Beat Sonic. It's Sonic with an X, which is
Okay.
fucking hard as shit. Like I can only play that game on the easiest settings with the speed all the way turned down because it's too fucking hard for me.
Wow.
Like that, and that has like that. Its collection of music is really weird too. But it's really good. If you're really if someone's really fucking good at rhythm games, that's a game for them because that one's fucking challenging as shit.
That
It's
sounds
just
cool
like
though.
overwhelming, and you can play it. So I actually found it easier. That was the one of these games I found it easier to use the touch screen of the Vita
Oh,
for
weird.
whatever reason. Like
Okay.
it was just easier for me. I mean, obviously if you're really fucking good at it, like the buttons would make more sense. But
Right.
like just having my fingers there, the way it was lined up on the screen worked really well, and they were big buttons. Like Persona 4 Dancing All Night, I'd never play on the screen because the buttons they asked you to press on the screen for it are too tiny.
Oh,
It's much. They're just small, so playing it on the buttons is much better,
yeah.
and it feels really good on the buttons. And the other game I played was a game I imported, which
Yeah.
was
You import a lot of stuff though.
this is the second game I've imported. It's only because I'm like looking for stuff on the Vita, and there's like the cool stuff on the Vita is Japanese stuff, and we don't get all of it.
It sounds
So
like the
it's-
Vita had a better year though than the DS. The DS had like not very much this year, honestly, if you don't count like re-releases of old games.
Yeah, I think the 3DS had a fucking brutal year. Like, I think the best 3DS game is that Hatsune Miku game.
For rhythm games, right?
At least in terms of a game that's new that came out this year, I just think that's flat out the best game that came out this year on the 3DS. Like there are a couple RPGs that are re-releases.
A lot of people like Box Boy, and I don't really share their love with it. I think it's neat, but
I think that Hatsune Miku game is much better than that.
it's more of a game.
Also, that game has Puyo Puyo in it, so it's automatically better.
Oh,
'Cause you
okay.
can just play Puyo Puyo against other people using that game. Which is hilarious. That's like the second Western release of Puyo Puyo. or the first one since I think the DS game, rather.
Mm-hmm.
So they haven't brought that over. So the other game I played is Taiko, which is that
Taiko no Tatsujin or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
which is mostly an arcade game. There was one version they've ever brought over to the West, and that they filled up with Western songs. So it was like it just didn't have that weird feel to it. It was
Right.
like Madonna in it. Although they had the American version of the Dragon Ball Z opening in it, which is real dumb.
That's weird.
Well, so one of the things about Taiko is it has like they put anime openings in it. So like this game has the Attack on Titan opening in it. It's one of the songs.
That's cool though.
It
That
has,
song's
like-
great.
It has the Evangelion opening. It has the Japanese opening to Digimon, which I really like. It has the opening to the volleyball anime I really like in it. It has the opening to Sword Art Online in it. I think those are like the only anime openings that were actually shows I care about. There are a bunch of others. It has Vocaloid stuff in it. Like there are some Hatsune Miku tracks in that game. It just has it has like 80 tracks or something in it. It's fucking huge in terms of how many games it has. The other advantage of it that I like over the Hatsune Miku game is when you're pressing stuff in that game in Taiko, you're doing it on the beats, whereas the Hatsune Miku games, it's because it's so focused on the Vocaloids. Their rhythm stuff is based on the lyrics,
Yeah.
so it hits less hard than when you're like really getting into the beat. That like just feels better.
yeah.
So like Taiko ended up being my number 10 game of the year just because it's just fucking cool. Like it's fun. Like it was just like joy was coming out of that thing.
So,
it's like-
should I grill you about your games of the year now or later?
You can do it now.
Okay.
I mean-
So, you know what? I can't say anything about Taiko no Tatsujin because I haven't played it. It looks cute.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't care. Like, the number 10 spot for, like, everybody's Game of the Year list is kind of just, like, the last thing they threw on there that they're like, you know what? I want to call this out. This was good.
yeah.
Like, it's a non-issue. The thing that I have issue with isn't even actually your Game of the Year list, if we're going to be completely fair, because there's a lot of stuff on here I like. It's the fact that right before you list the stuff on your Game of the Year, you have another list that is actually the Game of the Year list, but you basically name it the I hate you, but you're good, or I want to love you, but you're bad list or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are actually the games of the year, except for Just Cause 3. That belongs there because that's a bad game, but like I want to love it. I want to like it.
That's the game like I have the most affection for. It's just like, oh yeah, but this thing is totally fucked.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll even give you GTA 5 PC because sure. I mean
I played that I said in the thing, I played that game more than any other game that's not on my top 10 list this year. I spent like 45 hours with that thing.
Yeah.
It's garbage, but there are parts of things that I can do in it that I kind of love. Like that was a really good podcasting game for a while, just driving, which is what I like in that game. Whereas all the mission structure is fucking terrible. Holy shit.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, that's kind of the way all GTA games are. Like, sorry to say, people that love those games, but like, the mission structure is terrible.
I haven't spent time with the GTA game since 3. But GTA Online was like enough to like just the idea of it's like a weird thing where just driving around with other people in the world, just knowing they're out there, was just cool to me.
Yeah. Until they like blow up your car and then you're just like, fuck, I guess that's it.
Yeah, until fucking hackers took over that thing and made it just a bad time all around.
Yeah, as they're one to do. Ori and the Blind Forest is one of the best games that came out in 2015.
Yo, the final dungeon of that game sucks.
It doesn't matter though, because at that point, it's already like been a great experience that whole time through, give or take. Okay.
Hey, so, I think the story in that game is bad.
Wait, what story?
Like,
there's no story in that game. The story is that like this dude is trying to get around in this forest.
I mean, the way that game stops you for like those long cutscene things still make you feel emotional. Like I was just annoyed at that every time.
Yo, people that like actually were like I teared up at the beginning or whatever. Like, get your head straight, man. Are you serious? They like they didn't even introduce you characters. They showed you 2 characters for 5 minutes, and then one of them dies. And you're just like, oh my god, my feels. It's like, what do you mean your feels? For all you know, he stole Ori and is a rapist. You don't know that big black dude's not a rapist.
Really, I thought that character, that fat character, seemed sort of sinister when I first watched it. Like
I did too, until like they started like being cute together. Obviously,
it's like way too obvious, but eventually that he wasn't. But
sure. Oh, like the first time he comes on screen, just like, oh shit, this is some Spirited Away shit right here.
Yeah,
that thing's creepy.
What people like about that game is like the thing that makes so many critics love indie type games is like, oh, it's a small creature. A lot of times it's a child with a big head in like a big scary world. Like,
sure.
Like fucking so many games just do that and then get critical acclaim for their story. It's like you guys are being played. Like,
so
this is a simple thing.
I'm going to tell you my only real issue with Ori and the Blind Forest is that starting this year and every year to come now, everybody will remember that game as the nice-looking game when they should remember it as the solid platforming, like, you feel like a badass Metroidvania game with tight controls.
Mm-hmm.
They're only going to remember how nice it looked. And that's really disappointing, because as nice as that game looks, it plays way better.
It plays really good.
It's mechanically, like, unless you're John, and I can vouch for him, because I played it even. Like, I took the controller and tried it. Holy shit, that game is busted on the Xbox for some reason. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's fucking bizarre. Like,
it hitched up and there was a delay in the inputs. It's unplayable almost.
That's awful.
Yeah, it was really bad. I was frustrated, and it was like at the beginning, I'm like, oh, dude, this is so bad. Get a gaming PC.
It's hard to run.
I just kind of throw that in now. Like, anytime I say anything to him, it's like, yeah, that game's really good. You should get a gaming PC. That's just part of the conversation now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that game was designed for the Xbox One. At least I think that's one of those where Microsoft swept in at the end to pay for stuff and get it on their system.
I'm not sure because from what like
Not,
people said, it sounds like it should have been developed on the for the Xbox One, but I don't think it was either.
yeah, I don't think it was.
Yeah, I don't know. It's either way. It's a shame that there's problems with that, but yo, you're letting one little thing, man, sour
No,
that
it's not
whole
one little thing.
experience.
It's a lot of it's okay. It's that I think the final third of the game is bad. That it also breaks a lot of the like it breaks a couple cardinal sins of the genre in that you can't get every collectible in the game like once you finished it, and you can't even get back into the game after your save.
Getting back.
It's fucking garbage. I assumed when that game came out, they would put it in like an expansion or something that would open your save back up. But until they do that, that's a fucking black stain on that game. That seals off your save file entirely.
It was really annoying because I really, really wanted to get jump back in that world, and it's like, oh, I could if I want to like play all over again. But I don't want to play all over again because by the end, like, I never touched the ground because I had everything unlocked and I felt like a badass. So I'm not going to go back to, like, only having a double jump. Fuck that. Yeah.
My problem with its level design, it's like similar to my problem with Super Mario World, in that I think the mechanics they have in that game are fucking phenomenal, and I don't think the level design lived up to it. Particularly in that final third when they've really given you a lot of tools.
I don't know. I really like when the owl is like chasing you and you're using all your tools to get away from him. I thought that was cool.
That final dungeon that's just like has no cohesion.
You're talking about the fire one, right?
Yeah, the fire one.
The fire one's actually terrible. Yeah.
It's bad. It's like a whole giant section of that game that sucks, and it's near the end. And I'm like, what the fuck? You've given me all these tools, and now you're not even putting in the work to build structure into your dungeon.
The problem with that dungeon was waiting for platforms to like form. Like it was weird. There was that felt like a first dungeon to me in a weird way.
Because like the puzzles and stuff were small and not very interesting, but like more than anything, nothing fed into anything else. You weren't like fixing this one part which changed something and then you explored somewhere else. It was just a series of rooms. It's terrible.
It's like, really funny considering the first dungeon, the tree, should have been like the final dungeon because it like up to that point it employs every single like mechanic you've learned on how to move through this world and makes you like test yourself with it.
Yeah, like
and that's the first dungeon.
And it's really the only one that does that because the second one relies more on that weird dream sequence that's more fucking with you and is the part of the game where collectibles can be lost and you can't get them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about collectibles myself much anyways, but I do respect when a game will let me get them in an all at one time and not have to come back. That's just kind of the style of Metroidvania games have followed now, though.
For me, that thing I care less about. But it is, like, the principle of the thing of, like, if you're making this kind of game, there are these, like, couple rules you should follow. And why didn't you follow them? It's not complicated. It's not hard. What the hell? What happened?
Like, time, probably.
Time of like locking this stuff out though, that doesn't I don't get that part.
No, like I think
time explains the last dungeon, I guess, but they still have to draw all that art assets and stuff. I don't get it.
That's probably what took up their time. Drawing all this shit.
That's different people because that game was all split. So there was like one person who was drawing all that art asset and some person was coming up with the mechanics and designing the dungeons.
Yeah.
Like that game was made by separate, like parts of it were made by separate people in separate worlds in terms of the layers of the game, and you can tell because of what the story is and how the gameplay is.
Yeah,
like it's not actually like you when I heard that I was like, oh, actually that explains a lot about how this game is in terms of the disconnect between its aesthetic and like story and its gameplay and type of game.
The fact that Ori is on this Ambivalent Game Awards and the part of StarCraft is on your actual Game of the Awards is baffling to me.
I had so much fun playing fucking StarCraft 2 though.
Specifically that final part, I guess. Just because of like the story beats.
No, like that whole Protoss campaign made me love playing the Protoss, which is not something I ever really did.
Yeah, Protoss suck. I hate
It,
playing them.
but that changed my mind on them, both in terms of lore and in terms of gameplay. It completely
Hmm.
turned me around on them.
Hmm.
Because a lot of it had the story, a lot of it has to do with it destroys the Kala, so they're not all like a hive mind anymore. They're individuals, and it made them much more interesting and gave them a lot of characters, which is a thing the Protoss have never had in any of their stories. It's always feels like there's one Protoss that like they make a concession for the audience and make them like appeal to you, like it was Phoenix or it was Tassadar or it was Zeratul, but it was always like one at a time. Whereas this is like a cast of characters that I really liked.
Hmm. I think
And
it's too late though for me. Like personally,
yeah, that's
that
fine.
that part
Like
took
for me,
way too long to
I've
come
loved
out.
StarCraft the whole time. So, but I wasn't anticipating this. That was just where
Ah,
I was. Like for me, what I wanted was the story of killing Arcturus Mence, like getting that revenge. That's what I wanted,
sure,
and that you get that in Heart of the Swarm. That's where
sure.
that game ends. So I was like satisfied. So I didn't care if I didn't even really care about the next expansion. I'm like, well, I like this game. I like playing this game. I like their dumb story. I'll play this, and I fucking loved it. Like it actually blew me away with how much I liked it compared to my expectations.
Hmm. All right, Undertale's on this list. I mean, I agree in a weird way. I think that what that game does, like Undertale, is it's important in a way that like people hadn't really thought of a way to kind of do that sort of thing in that like RPG setting before, but I fucking hate how it plays. I
Yeah, that for me is the big thing. Is like I didn't really have a good time playing Undertale.
and it's annoying. It's weird because like I've said this time before and I'll say it always. The most important thing to me no matter what is how a game plays mechanically. Otherwise, like what's the difference between me just like watching a movie or a visual novel or something that's just
Yep.
story based, right?
Hmm.
So if it's going to be a video game, you have to get me in. Like, and that's totally subjective, but
Yeah.
like you have to get me into the gameplay. Undertale is this weird outlier where I put up with gameplay I kind of disliked at best and hated, absolutely fucking hated with a passion at worst, just because it did everything else so well. So like, I don't know. It was weird
Yeah.
for me.
For me, the balance doesn't work out just because so much of the game I wasn't getting that story stuff,
Yeah.
but like you don't really get it till the end, and particularly you get a lot of it in the pacifist run. But even then, like too much of it, I just found tedious.
I don't
Like
like that you have to play a certain way to really get the most of what that game is trying to give you either.
no, like that the
That bugs
neutral
me.
end sucks, and that the game makes you do the neutral end anyway was
Yeah.
fucking frustrating.
Yeah,
Also,
it's
like,
weird.
the context around that stuff doesn't make any sense. Like if in the story sense you wanted the neutral ending to happen,
Yeah.
then the trigger for doing the pacifist run after the neutral ending should have been much more made more sense than receiving a phone call you just don't receive otherwise. Like
Sure.
like when you beat the neutral end when I beat the neutral ending, Flowey like specifically goes out and tells me, oh, there were certain characters you probably should have spent more time with. It's like, yeah, I know I should have spent more time with fucking what's her name, anime scientist lady, but I couldn't. The game didn't let me. Like
Right.
I had to wait till I got a phone call about from Undyne afterwards. Like, god damn it. It's just
Yeah.
annoying.
I mean, I agree. This is kind of how like I can best describe how I feel this game fails in that regard is that I've talked to multiple people like at my work and like Nathan specifically as well,
Yeah.
and people that aren't like in this kind of bubble like we're all in on Twitter or you and I are in
Yeah,
or
yeah.
TDP where like we follow video games, we have like a social network of people that talk to each other, and all of them say the same thing. Yeah, I beat Undertale. Okay, so what happened at the end? Oh, you actually aren't even done. And none of them
Oh.
knew that. Because, like, they all got the neutral ending thinking that's the ending, and they're like, yeah, it was okay. It's like, no, see, this is a problem. is that it makes you think you're done and makes you think, yeah, that's an okay ending, and you're actually missing out on the really good stuff unless you like either have somebody walking you through it, you have a guide or something, or you hear from like me when I'm talking to them in person, oh, you should go back and just like, I'm not going to tell you why, just go back. Like, that's a failure to me in how that game reads.
The game is, the best parts of the story are only in the pacifist run. And if for people that actually like that gameplay, the best gameplay stuff is only in the genocide run of those two fights. Like, it's hiding its sort of key parts in a game that's sort of about telling you, like, oh, you don't need to see everything. Like, did you really need to do that? That, like, in the pacifist run, like, a lot of the messages, like, you should be caring about characters and wanting to see things right. But then, like, part of the game, the way it's built, is, like, encouraging people to, like, go out and see every fucking little thing, because a lot of the best stuff is hitting there. It's frustrating. It's particularly frustrating for me, because I don't, like... I like the story and I like the characters.
The characters, yeah, for sure.
I like the characters and I like the character interactions a lot. And I don't want to fucking know what happens when you fucking kill all of them. Like, I just don't, but I do, because I couldn't fucking escape it on the internet, because every fucking person has to talk about it.
See, this is the thing, though, is this really a fail? This specifically what we're talking about now. Is this a failure on the game, or a failure on us as a society trying to have, like, a completionist attitude and seeing everything?
It's only a failure to me for the game, because part of the point of the game is the message of you don't need to see anything, but the game, because of the design and the way the genocide run works, is, like, designed to, like, it brings people into it, it makes people want to see it. Like, I just think the idea behind trying to make a game where people didn't need to see everything, that message, that falls flat. Like, the game didn't pull that off.
But doesn't it? The reason why, like, I wanted to see a genocide run is because I was told by, like, when I finished that game, I didn't care. It wasn't until I was talking to some people, like, not on a podcast, they're like, yo.
This game, I wouldn't get anywhere, though. Like, I would play the gameplay of the first bit and, like, say, nah, this isn't for me. So, like, I can't throw that away, because the only reason I played it at all is because of people talking about it.
And, like, if we're going to talk about other failures of this game, that intro is so bad. It is so bad.
Yeah. And it's, like, long enough for a sitting, and it's all not that good. It's boring. And it's tedious. It's tedious. Too much of the game is just boring.
I'm so glad, though, that, like... So, like, this is how this actually worked out. I found out, like, later on.
Yeah.
Is that Toby Fox was like, yo, I'm going to make this game, okay? And people are like, yeah, sure. And then he does a Kickstarter thing. And then he's like, hey, Kickstarter people, like, here's, like, a prototype or, like, the intro thing or whatever. Like, a taste of what you're going to get. People played it, and they had their opinions or whatever. I'm sure they loved it at the time. I'm so glad that, like... Okay, this is hard to explain, but it's kind of like that tutorial area was done like a year before the rest of the game, and it shows, and that tutorial area should have stayed as like a weird alpha build that only Kickstarter backers got to see and not people that bought the game. That shouldn't have been just kind of forced in there, I think.
Yeah, he should have redone it.
It's bad. It's actually really bad, but to his credit, I'm super, super glad he didn't keep going with it and like... do these weird convoluted puzzles and shit like the shit I hate in that first area. I'm glad they never do again in that game. So that's a plus, but why have it in at all?
Yeah, it's like it's the thing where it's what really makes me unable to separate what like the impact around the game, the way people talk about it.
Yeah.
Because without people talking about it, I honestly wouldn't have played it. Because I probably would have played that first section and been like, whatever. Like, I
did play that first section and went whatever. Until people... There was some people actually just sending me messages being like, dude, you have to play. Like, I was like, oh, okay. So, and then, like, sure enough, I played, like, from the end of the tutorial, keep going. I'm like, oh, actually, you know what? They're totally right. But... yeah, I was done. I played that intro area, and I was like, well, I'm going to call the stream there, and never wanted to play it again. I uninstalled it until people were basically goading me into it. And I'm glad they did. But Yeah.
Yeah.
Comments also saying, oh yeah, if you kill Flowey in the neutral ending, you don't even get the best ending hint. That's really bad too. Because you
Great.
want to kill Flowey so bad. So, yeah, that's weird. There's some... I still have to give it to him, though. I really like some of the design stuff he put in there. I still personally think it's a matter of the day and age we live in with the internet and social media and stuff like that. I think that you can't make a game with multiple branching things and, like, tell people that, like, you're not supposed to look for everything. You're kind of supposed to, like, get your own thing. That's never going to work. That's why, like, when people get mad at Telltale, and this includes me back 2 years ago when I got mad at them for it, and it's like, oh, well, I can see mechanically my choices don't matter and stuff. Like, of course they don't matter. Because it's a story they're telling me. They're giving me the false, like, idea that I have any control over it. But it's all going to play... like, I have aesthetic control over little things. It's going to play out the same. And I'm totally fine with that, because if there were, like, oh, yeah, you can get, like, 50 different endings, I'm probably going to look all those 50 different endings up. Because people will goad me into it on social media.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, in some contexts, I don't have a problem with that. It's in this specific one, of like the structure of this game, I have an issue with it. So
the annoying thing too is that, like, even though I hate the gameplay in that game, there are some boss fights that, like, turn how the gameplay is on its head enough that I find it really, like, engaging. Like, for example, specifically Papyrus, how, like, you just think he's, like, shitty at this bullet hell thing, and then you realize, oh, actually it's a platforming fight because he makes you jump now and, like, do platforming stuff, and you're no longer floating around a screen. But, like, it gives you this illusion that, like, oh no, he's just, like, really shitty, that's why he's not a guardsman. And then, like, the build up to that where they're just, like, talking about the blue attack, stay still or whatever, and then he's like, I'm gonna show you my blue attack, and you're just like, as a player, the game has taught you that, like, oh, okay, so I'm just going to stand still, and then you're laughing at him when, like, nothing happens, and then your heart turns blue, and he's like, there, now you're blue, that's my blue attack, and you're like, oh, fuck, and it turns into a platforming fight. That is great, and I don't think the game did stuff like that enough.
I mean, it's pretty good at, like, introducing stuff to keep it fresh in terms of gameplay. Like, I don't know that it gets stale, I just didn't have any, like, I just didn't enjoy it.
I hate that the final boss fights are just bullet hell, too.
Well, yeah, then they just take too long. Like, I just, I just, like, emotional, I'm like, whatever. Like, yeah, I'm doing this, what fuck.
And that the fact that you have to fight Asgore, like, you have to.
Yeah.
That's annoying in, like, a way I can't even put into words and make people understand why unless they're with me. That, it's almost like a breach of trust in a weird way. Like, there's a weird contract you get into when you play a video game where the game shows you a bunch of stuff and it'll change that stuff or manipulate it in a strange way, but there's always kind of a weird trust there. That Undertale made me trust that there's, like, a way to do everything passively for so long, and then they actually just threw that away. Like, and even though people are like, well, like, you still do it passively, you just have to knock him down all the way or whatever, that's still bullshit, because passively does not include taking your knife and jabbing it into the final boss multiple times until he gives up. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, the game, the way it's built is structured for you to not do the pacifist run on your first play, to, like, play it like a normal video game. But, like, that wouldn't have sold me on that game, so...
I think that's, like, how Sean played it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, to me, then that game is just like, oh, this is not that... this is okay, but whatever. Like, I don't really like how this plays. There's not enough story here. There's not enough character stuff. Like, the stuff with Papyrus and Sans is really good, but there's just not enough of that.
Sans is really good.
Sans is really good! Yo, when the characters are in a room together interacting, I fucking love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's really
enough of it.
There's not enough in video games where
I find the video game part.
There's not enough video games where at the very end the characters will all just talk to each other and completely ignore you as a player for a little bit. Like at the end of that game, when they all, like, kind of meet up before the, like, big final fight on the pacifist run, and they're all just, like, talking to each other. That's great. That stuff.
Yep.
Moving on here, Just Cause 3. that totally belongs on this list because that's not even on like my honorable mention list. If I had like an ambivalent game awards, like that would probably get it.
Yeah, for me, I fucking loved flying in that game. Like for me, Just Cause 3, I love the mechanics, but everything built around that game fucking sucks. And it's so like standard AAA action like formula. It's just I hate all of it.
Yeah.
That game tracks how long I stay in the air in just wingsuit without popping
Sure.
a parachute or touching the ground. I fucking love it. I
Sure.
played that game for a fucking hour of just flying without touching the ground. Ugh.
The thing that game actually does well too is that it doesn't have this weird like level restriction that, or like this faux open world thing that a lot of games try to do where like you're gated off of areas. That world is totally open. You can destroy like the end enemy base if you wanted to, and if you were good enough and want to spend 20 hours just doing that in a sitting.
Yeah.
Like,
and also like it has all the same progression stuff.
Yeah.
But the tools you get at the beginning are good enough.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, I don't have to fuck with any of that. Like,
yeah.
Fuck off, progression tree. I don't care. I'm gonna do what's fun.
Yeah.
Which is your mechanics off the bat. So whatever, we're cool.
And I think the problems a lot of people had with that game, they completely forgot how Just Cause 2 acted. You still had to destroy certain things and get your like chaos meter up a certain way and stuff. Like that's not different. Because I like specifically, I guess if I'm going to point this at somebody, like, yo, Sean, the thing you don't like about Just Cause 3 was in Just Cause 2, dog.
Yeah. For me, it's like Just Cause 2's map looked shitty. Like it was just unpleasant to look at. It was all that weird brown, like sand color.
Yeah.
It just wasn't appealing. Whereas Just Cause 3, it's like they added color in. Cool.
Yep.
Makes it much more appealing to get around the world.
And this whole, like, scavenger hunt thing, like, find the red thing and blow it up, I never had a problem with any of that. So maybe that's a personal thing.
Yeah, it's an issue up front, but then once you've done it once, you know where all the objects are.
You know how to read that game, yeah.
Yeah. And, this is another thing, though. The starting area, that one island you're in the beginning, is the best environment in the game. Like, the later stuff is not as good, so...
Sure.
Whatever. Like, I also don't have to progress in the story to, like, move on to these other areas or go over there. Because this first area, this is actually the best area. They actually put the most work into this one.
The annoying thing about it is that, like, for what it is, I kind of wish it was a little bit cheaper. Like, I wish it was a $40 price point instead of the full $60 sort of thing. Just because it felt kind of like an expansion in a weird way. Like, a really upgraded, like, graphics expansion.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the bummer for me was. Just the price tag didn't match what I felt I got for that one.
Fair enough. My bummer for me is that game should have co-op at least. At least.
Oh, that's like the least thing it need. Yeah. If that had co-op, we'd actually be playing that right now instead of doing a podcast, probably.
Like, yeah. I mean, you look at a game like Far Cry, you're like, Just Cause, you should be doing this at least. If you're not going to be able to do your Just Cause 2, like the multiplayer mod, because that thing is always broken, and you can't actually release that as a product, like, okay, but you gotta have co-op. Come on. Come the fuck on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. The Witcher 3, I think this is a subjective thing, because I've talked to a lot of people that were like, I didn't like The Witcher 3. I asked them if they didn't like what they thought of like that world and story. They're like, oh, I don't really care for it. It's like, well, if you don't like The Witcher story and environment, you're not going to like that game. That's straight up how that goes. What's your, like, there's a lot of paragraphs here, so
yeah.
Do you want to be a little more concise?
For me, it was fucking weird. So, for me, it was, I played that game, and it actually hooked me. Like, I was in on their environment and their storytelling.
Yeah.
Like, you got me. I actually, like, the idea of stealing from these poor villagers, like, I didn't actually want to take everything that was nailed down, because I was invested enough in this environment that, like, these people are poor and they're suffering. Like,
even bartering with them felt gross, asking for more.
Oh, I hate it. Every time I accidentally pressed that button, I was like, oh, fuck, I'm just keeping this low. Yeesh.
Yeah.
So my problem with The Witcher 3 is as soon as I had that feeling where the game, like, had me, it fucking lost me, because everything about doing stuff in that game was driving me towards getting experience. that like the currency of experience and progression mattered so much to being able to actually play that game, and everything about the environment and the story, like particularly the story is like making you feel like you're in a rush.
Yeah.
But everything I have to do in the game to level is like going to these very specific question marks on the map and very video gamey and leveling. Like I hate all
Yeah.
that bullshit. Like, oh, there's such a good game in here. If it didn't have a fucking leveling system, I would actually love it.
Yeah, the leveling system actually makes, like, I had kind of this problem too, and then I just got over it because I like that game so much.
Yeah, fair enough.
The thing that I had that problem too, where I felt like it feels like they're almost unsure or whatever in their product, where it's like, we want to do this cool thing, but we still have to make it a video game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of annoying to me, because you're right. If they didn't have any of that stuff, and it's just like, this is The Witcher 3. Geralt is like a full-blown Witcher. He's been doing this for a long time, and he's very good at it. Give me everything. He is one of the better Witchers in the land. Just like make everything scale and be harder as I go.
And make fucking money matter, because that's what this world is built around.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm not doing things for money. I'm doing things because I need the experience, and like money is whatever.
And getting the experience is really slow and hard. It's almost like old WoW level grinding. It's like, really weird.
I thought the Griffin fight is level 4 recommended. I was like just into level 3 when I was ready to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess I have to fucking grind. And I fucking did everything I could find and was like, had it, and I still wasn't level 4. And I just did the fight anyway. Like, fuck, this is going to come to bite me later on because I'm not going to be high enough level. But fuck, I just can't take it anymore.
I don't like how the crossbow uses in that either.
I want to progress it. And it's also that the particular story they decided to tell is always pushing you forward like you're in a rush. Like, oh,
this is a classic video game problem, though. Like every fucking game that has this grandiose story has that problem.
So for me, my big counter to that is Dragon Age Inquisition. I didn't feel that at all. I felt the story in that enforced the idea of doing every little fucking thing, because you're building up this thing. You're building up the Inquisition. So I felt like every tiny dumb action I was taking that was super video gamey was like building something up. So it made it okay for me. Like just contextualizing, like the role of story in a video game is a lot to give contextualization to my actions, so I feel like I know what I'm doing. That worked there. Like The Witcher 3 is in a lot of ways better written, but its story is like at fucking odds with its gameplay.
Yeah.
Or its progression system specifically.
Yeah, it holds on to very old ideals with video games that I kind of wish most video games would drop, because I kind of like the power fantasy that something like a Dynasty Warriors gives you, where you're just like a badass right away. And I think if you mix that with an RPG where it's like, of course, Geralt is like a badass right away, and now I just get to take in this story without, like, this is what the Souls games do well, is that you can play those games naked, basically, because no matter how you play those or whatever, certain bosses are harder and stuff, and there's a progression, but like, if you're good with the like timings of stuff and like dodging and stuff, you can do that whole game without anything, basically.
Yeah, so like another one of, like, I think that whole last paragraph in my Witcher 3 thing is me talking about a specific fight I had where I was fighting these fucking feral zombie things, but they could like heal themselves at a rate like at or if not faster than I could damage them.
That sounds irritating.
So I was just fucking furious and just kept fighting them till like my weapon broke and I kept fighting them.
That's great though.
And but eventually I was like, so there were 2 of them. So eventually I did it well. I was just dodging and I killed both of them. And my reward was, then this guy told me, oh, here's a quest. Now you fight like 9 of them right now and you can't stop. And then if the quest giver died, I automatically failed the quest forever.
I do like that though.
I was so mad.
I like the idea that if a quest giver dies, that like it's just over.
Yeah, it was cool, except like I was.
But in that regard, that's irritating sounding.
They were like level 9, and I was like level 4. Like they were way higher level than me, but I was like, because the mechanics are good, and like I could just dodge, shield myself, so I could take a hit always, and then fight them. As long as they weren't using their heal, I could beat them.
Sure.
But fuck, it was just so frustrating. if the game weren't also like that, I felt like, oh, my numbers just aren't high enough to be having fun here. Like, fuck, that you're taking me totally out of the experience that I want to be having, which is immersing myself in this world because it's really cool. And I think there's a lot of stuff right about it. Also, that the immersion is broken when I'm revisiting areas and I'm hearing the same village dialogue over and over again because there isn't enough of it and it repeats. Like
that, yeah, that's a weird oversight for how big that game is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a money constraint though, like hiring voice actors and stuff. So that's kind of passable in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I would be more okay with it if it weren't on top of these other things that are pushing me into seeing it.
Right, because then you like the Souls games.
I was actually completely done with that village. Like I had nothing to do there except I had to go there to like repair my armor and go to a shop. Like
right,
I wanted to be done with that place.
Right. And then, like, without the progression system and you feeling like you have to be there in the Souls game, it would be kind of like, wouldn't feel so much like the game is screwing you. It would be more of the, like, oh, I fucked up because I'm bad. And then, like, so now I have to hear It's kind of weird, the, like, psychology behind, like, gaming and stuff, where it's like, if you feel like it's your fault, you're way more tolerant of all the annoying nuances a game has.
For sure.
Because it's almost like you're accepting it as your punishment for not doing it right. But, like, if you feel like the game screws you, everything's annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, like, what this list is about to me. Like, these are games that I found things about them made me annoyed because of how they were. And that didn't, like, completely jive with what I wanted from a game.
I think you should just call this I'm 3D Homer's Contradiction Awards because I like to contradict people.
Not why. It's that I actually, like... I fucking love parts of these games, like legitimately love them, and I fucking hate parts of them, like fucking deeply hate them.
Let's talk about Yokai Watch then, because I didn't have the pleasure of playing the full thing, so I want to know what you loved and hated about the actual game.
So for me, it's I fucking like just play it, like when I booted that thing up, smile fucking giant on my face. I love all their dumb jokes. I love all their contextualization for stuff with kids. It like opens with kids trading bugs, and it's all about bug collecting. And then he finds this yokai ghost, and he's like, "Oh man, I just wanted to find some cool bugs. Fuck, now I'm at the ghost. Can I just go home and play video games? Come on." And you're like helping people with their problems. There's like this weird story intersects. Like I love fucking everything about it. Just made me fucking happy. Like that there's weird stuff about teaching kids to like press the button before they cross the street. There's this story about a cat who gets hit by a car, and now he just wants to fucking punch that truck. Like he just this ghost of this cat just stands in the road and just wants to punch this truck. I love that they put the theme song from the TV show in the fucking game because that's fucking hilarious.
Huh.
But I fucking hate playing it. Like I hate the gameplay.
Yeah, the gameplay was boring in the demo. I couldn't imagine a whole game of it.
So it's not even that it's boring. It's that if it were just tedious, I actually would keep playing it. It's that then the difficulty ramps up on boss fights. And I feel like I have no control and I lose, and I'm like, fuck this.
Well, you actually don't have control, which is what made me bored with it.
Like I don't have control and I lose, then I'm totally done. Even if this is about grabbing some old guy's underwear from the spa where he left it, and I'm fighting a giant pig ghost. I love all that shit, but fucking fighting this pig ghost, nope, I'm done.
I love that the cat got hit by a car, so he wants to punch trucks. That's so good.
So good. So good. And he is like his vision of his owner is like her standing over his dead body going, "You died to that truck? That's so lame."
Wow.
Oh, there's so much about that game I fucking love. Like every little decision around it, around like the aesthetic and stuff, I fucking love it. But the gameplay, man, the gameplay sucks. It's like really engaging for kids up front, I get it, but like, bad. It's bad.
I don't think we have to talk about GTA 5 on PC. It's obvious why it's there.
Yeah. I think we talked about that enough.
And we talked a little bit about it. Like, we've talked about it even when it came out on this podcast at length as to what the issues with that were. Life is Strange. I'm just gonna like I said this in the Game of the Year thing as well. The reason why it ranks so high on my list isn't even necessarily because I really loved what that game did mechanically. I didn't love the whole overarching story. That game, in fact, to me, is mostly just like a few parts done extraordinarily well that I've never seen done in a game before.
Yeah.
But more importantly to me, it was an all-year thing Like, I loved looking forward to the next episode sort of thing, so it kind of had to make my list as, like, it was a year experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, like, perfectly in that year, too, like, starting from the very early part of the year and ending, like, almost in winter.
Yeah.
Like, it was a full year journey. So, like, I really like a lot of the stuff that game does, but, like, what's your issues with it?
Yeah, for me, like, a lot of that love was tied up in stuff they were pushing forward, like assumptions on my part that they would tie it together. Like, again, throughout the year, a big thing was they could lose it entirely. Like,
Yeah.
they could fucking blow it. And for me, they fucking blew it at the end.
They
Like,
totally did.
They just did.
Yeah, no, they totally did.
Yeah. It's like, so that's why it's not on my list. Like, I'm mad at them for fucking
Okay.
ruining it, for blowing it.
Okay.
Like, honestly, like, I'm actually, like, Giant Bomb East has been playing through it, and I've been watching just because I like seeing their reactions and, like, the way they overthink every choice they get and, like, talk about it. Like, it's just, I like, because there are parts of the game I like, and I'm just waiting for it all to fall apart, because what they like about the game are the small, like, too real moments that are the part of the game I like, and none of that is in the final episode. None of it.
You know what the funny thing of this whole conversation is, and maybe, like, I don't know if we ever talked about this on the podcast directly, but, like, after that last episode,
oh yeah,
I was just like, you didn't mind it,
yeah,
and I just messaged you a barrage of fucking, like, hatred.
yeah.
I was so mad, and then, like, as I was talking, I think I accidentally turned you and then turned myself around on it.
Yeah, it was like that conversation. We both, like, we'd flipped each other.
Because I was, like, on a ledge, and then by the end I was just like, whatever, it's about the journey. The journey was good. I really like what it did or whatever. And then the next day we were talking, you're like, yeah, I fucking hate that game. So I don't think we ever mentioned that, like, on the podcast before, but, like, there was a conversation right after that game came out that night, and, like, me just losing my shit about it.
Yeah. And I was like, what? It was bad, but whatever.
Yeah, and then we turned each other around on it, and then I was just like, yeah, that ending was bad, but whatever, and then Homer's just like, no, fuck that game. The end of episode 2 is so good, though.
It's really good.
Oh my god, it's good. That's kind of like the moment. And in a way, it's kind of a shame that wasn't in episode 4, at least.
That's like a bigger thing for me is the conversation with Frank. The amount of work they put into that is, like, kind of what I wanted them to do, but they fucked it up. Like, it doesn't work emotionally at all. Like, the structure of it in the game, that you can use your powers there. Like, they tried to recapture some of what worked into, and they just couldn't. Like,
Right.
they just didn't have the skills. Because you look at the fucking, there's a thing out there you can see of, like, the choice tree of all
The,
the
like,
different
flow chart.
possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah.
For what can happen in that conversation, it's fucking intense.
Yeah,
But, like, whatever, that conversation is nothing. Like, it has no impact.
that's why I just
And
left him
don't
dead.
do anything like that in 5.
Yeah, you know what?
5 brings back every fucking mechanic in that game except that one.
Yeah.
Like, they bring back the fucking stealth section, and they put the bottle collecting in there, even if it's a joke.
Yeah, I hate when things do this thing where they're like, oh, everybody hates this thing, right? It's like, yeah, don't make me do it. Oh, you're making me... Fuck off.
Like, the fact that you don't have to do it doesn't make me any madder at the fact that I thought you had to do it and did it. Like, that doesn't help.
See, I didn't do it, so I was okay.
I did it. I was so mad. I was so mad. I'm madder that I know that I didn't have to do it, but I was just fucking convinced I needed to.
I will still say, though, as a landmark for, like, all story-based games, every game should try to live up to what Life is Strange did at the end of episode 2, where there's this weird, like, perfect mesh of story beats, something really serious and big happening, and, like, it affects how the game plays as well. Like, it's actually... It was a perfect storm that I don't think them or, like, other game developers probably won't be able to replicate for a while. It worked out so perfectly.
And, like, the particular thing about that is, like, how well it was, like, tackling stuff that was, like, real, kind of.
Yeah.
Like the small sale story of
Yeah.
like people's lives being shit, and, like, the interaction there was all really good. and they got too fucking far up their own ass with their time travel bullshit.
Yeah. No, they really did. It's really too bad, too. It's really too bad.
It's really too bad. I fucking love parts of that game, and I fucking hate that ending.
That's still one of my favorite experiences of the year, though. There's no doubt about it.
That's totally fair. If I hadn't played so many other games that I love that spoke to me personally, it would be on my list.
Yeah, we'll get to your list. Maybe we can compare contrast some stuff, because I'll bring up my list as well, even though I don't have it written on the site, but I have it. Okay, so Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is on this list. It was my number 2 game of the year.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because no matter what I thought of, like, I love Metal Gear games, and this is not like one of those.
Yeah.
I recognize that. There's not enough story for me. Some of the things they do with the characters of Big Boss and stuff, I don't really like. There's a lot of stuff in here I don't like that, like, I wanted from a Metal Gear game, but every time I played it, it was like candy. Like, every mechanic they had in there was implemented so well. I had such a good time, I couldn't not put it high up.
So, I agree with that, except for the parts where they try and mix up what you're doing. Every time they try and break the core gameplay loop, it's fucked. Like, every time they bring out the ghosts, like,
yeah,
it's bad. Like, every time they try to mix it up, they kind of, it's not good, and you like see the seams in the way they designed those AI routines and like the tools they give you. And for me, that particularly came to a head with a particular mission that I fucking haven't beaten. I've tried multiple times, and I just fucking hate, and I'm so sick of I can't even play that game anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like, that is a totally personal problem there.
It's a particular mission that
yeah.
fucking drove me up the wall and made me so I can't even enjoy that game, which I fucking loved up to that, for the most part, up to that point.
That's
like,
really
it was
too
gonna
bad.
be really high. It was gonna be probably like directly below Mario Maker on my list.
Sure.
That's really where it would have gone. But it fucking broke me. Like, and I wasn't done playing it, but the game was like, no, we're not gonna have any more fun playing this. We're done with you. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point where I put like 35 hours into that game, and there's like no story has actually happened.
Yeah,
like,
I
there's
mean,
nothing else to keep me invested to make me want to push forward beyond this one mission that I fucking hate. Like, that's where it completely lets me down. Is like, what was keeping me was the gameplay, and then the gameplay fell apart for me.
Yeah.
Oh, but if that game were about just sneaking into people's bases and stealing their mixtapes and then fucking just playing their copy of the fucking 80s songs, I would fucking...
For a long time, that's all that game was for me.
Yeah, for a while, that was it.
Yeah.
And I fucking love that part. Like...
Yeah.
Yeah, but I couldn't... For me, it was like, it was on the list till I looked at I was like, not feeling right about my list. I'm like, something's not right. And I looked at it without Metal Gear Solid, and I was like, no, that feels right. Like, I'm just so mad at that game, I can't put it on my list. Like, it fucking broke. It broke my heart. Fuck that game. Like, I felt like it broke up with me.
No, what actually happened is that game was on your list, you looked at your list, you're like, something doesn't feel right, there's not enough shitty games on here, so let's take a good one off and put on Massive Chalice. I'm just kidding. I haven't actually played Massive Chalice, but we can get to that when we talk about that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's talk about your actual top 10.
Sure.
We talked about your number 10, Tycho. It just sounds like it was a good time.
Yeah,
like,
it's just a good time. It's got songs I like dumb anime themes, good Vocaloid stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it introduced me to some songs that I hadn't heard before. This dumb baby metal chocolate song that's surprisingly really good for a rhythm game. It's fucking bizarre. It's like heavy metal and then like J-pop singers. It's just fucking weird.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like the same reason somebody would put like a Rhythm Heaven game on their top 10. Just like a great time with it. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Your number 9 and my number 10 matchup, actually. Duck Game.
Yeah.
The problem with Duck Game, we both agree, you need people to play it with. You need at least 2 other people for it to be a really good time. You could play with one other person, it's still not as good of a time, honestly.
Yeah, for me, it did. Like, 2 other people you got, it's kind of the most fun I had with multiplayer this year, maybe? If you got, like, a full group of people.
Yeah.
Like, it's really fun.
It is.
But, like, on my own, I'm not actually going to play it.
For, like, what that game actually is, the fact that, like... I'm going to pull up Steam right now, because I know I put in, like, way too much time for what that game actually is. in it. And this was only like when we had people. Yeah, like 13 hours into like just playing a death match basically with people is ridiculous.
Like just and there are so many like good like dumb levels, like the way it mixes it up, the way it has the fucking music level where you can just fucking play the drums while things are on fire.
Yeah.
Like it's just got so many little touches in terms of like level design on top of like all the cool guns and the quacking ridiculousness of just being fucking fun.
And then just being on a completely biased level, I really like Landon as a person.
He's great, and playing with him was a lot of fun.
So like just with that bias, like that dude is great.
Yeah.
And I want to see him succeed.
Game. He made a really fun game, dude.
He did.
He did it.
Yeah.
And he put like from talking to him of like how what a hell it was to put online in that game. I'm so glad he did. Because that makes that whole thing for me.
Yeah, for sure. It could have like been the same problems I have with some of the other like games that look like they're real fun, but I haven't played because fuck local, specifically Towerfall and Samurai Gun. I'm never gonna play those unless like I go to somebody's house and they're playing it like on a TV or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's never gonna happen. Because why would it?
It's like separating out like home console version versus arcade experience, kind of like for the new age. Like it's like this is a cool experience, but it's like too exclusive, and I'm not a part of it, so I don't have any connection to it.
Agreed.
So like fuck those games, and so I kind of hate the developers for not making the games for me.
Like
a personally selfish thing.
I actively hate the developers for that. Yeah.
I get it's fucking hard to do it right.
No, fuck that. Like, fuck that.
I just understand it, but it's like, oh, so you're just not actually going to make a thing for people. Okay.
Yeah.
That's whatever.
It's going to be real awkward if I ever finally get, like, if I ever get Matt Thorson to actually, like, respond to an email for an Indie Talks. I'm just like, I hate you for not putting online in this. How do you respond? Burnt Bridge. Oh, well. My number 9 and your number 8 also coincide, I think, for the exact same reasons. Rocket League is the same as Duck Game. It's fun with a bunch of people, but also it's fun alone, and it's fun even when you're losing. It's as simple as that.
Yep. The one thing I'll add is I also have messing with the mutator stuff. It like more for me. It like more hits home of like how good that core game is balanced. Like I don't like most of the mutators. It's just fun to get infinite boost is just cool. So if you're playing with people, that's a fun thing to put on. But I actually like the core physics of it so much that the mutators mostly annoy me. Like they're dumb to mess around with, but whatever.
Yeah,
that
like
fucking core game is really good. It's really well balanced.
Watching people play with like the mutators, it seems like a fun, like cute little streamer thing. But like when I think of that, again, going back to like mechanics are like the most important thing for a video game for me. The mechanics are so tight that watching like a floaty ball or like a puck with different physics actually looked annoying.
The floatiness is like when you're just fucking. Though I hate the most because it involves too much like just standing around waiting for the ball to fucking land so people can hit it.
Yeah.
Like you're just not hitting the ball enough. Whereas like the cube, it's like dumb. Like it just goes in weird directions, so it's at least just a different thing. When you're just trying to get like that extra, like I've played enough, like I've played this to my limit, but I just want to get that extra squeeze of having fun out of it. It was a good addition, but.
Oh yeah, I'm glad they added it.
Yeah.
But
definitely
like,
for free, adding it, like great, good job.
Yeah.
Good job adding something that makes me like your game actually a little, like makes it point out like how good the work you put in initially was.
Yeah. Our list completely diverged now. Completely. Duelist is your number 7. This was on my honorable mentions just because I didn't feel like I had enough time playing it.
I played this a lot.
I know you did. So
I was playing it like a whole day while they had server issues and like they were constantly feeding in like updates of like we think servers are fixed now, and then like oh wait no, servers are totally still fucked. But I fucking loved it so much I kept firing away at it.
Yeah.
Like I can't criticize them that because it's a fucking beta. Like
I will say that game that like when Big thanks to like Z-Wind or whatever
Oh
for
yeah, for sure.
getting us into it. But like when he was talking about it, I downloaded it that night and I played for 9 hours straight, which is insane. And like that was like the second last time I ever played it. So like it was one giant sitting for me. I don't even feel like I was burnt out. I just never went back to it because the biggest problem with Duelist for me is one, it's in a beta. So like I don't really want to get too invested in something that could change dramatically, but that's just a personal thing. More specifically, this is such a weird thing to say, but it's not in my Steam library, so I forgot it existed a lot of times when I was looking for something to play.
Fair enough.
And there was a lot of other shit to play, which is unfortunate. So
Yeah, that's fair. For me, my ceiling on it was the blind box thing of how that's how you get cards. Like that's just I'm not that in. I'm never gonna put money into that service, and playing it a lot, I just wasn't. At a certain point, I hit my limit where I wasn't getting enough new cards to make my decks more interesting and do new stuff with them.
right.
So I petered out that way.
This is a problem that they'll fix when they start adding more cards.
Yeah.
That you can get in random packs and stuff and keep it interesting. But yeah, like, why would you, right? Like, it's kind of one of these weird things where if you're into, like, a TCG and you feel like you have, like, a great deck, you're kind of, like, there's no more carrot on the end of the stick, so you kind of lose some motivation to keep trying.
Like, for me, it's... Even if I'm playing this game enough to the point where I'm happy putting money into it, I still don't want to put money into it in a blind box system because I don't feel like I want to be able to buy the cards I want, like specifically. That's a personal thing of the way I've like having gone through the entire spectrum of ways to pay for Magic the Gathering cards. Like I've found what I like the blind box high of like not knowing like that I get no satisfaction out of that. That gives me no emotional high anymore. So it's terrible. Like I hate it.
You are lucky though, because a lot of people are the complete opposite in that, and too many game developers feast on that.
I mean, I've been feasted on. The problem is like all that emotional high I used to get from Magic the Gathering, like opening physical packs, it's all been sucked out.
Oh, so you're a carcass. Is what you're saying.
I was the husk of a person, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a closet full of Magic cards. So it's all been turned into cardboard. And digital cardboard.
Great.
Although that's different, because I never really was buying blind boxes online. You buy into drafts and stuff, so you actually are building deck. It's a whole different thing. And it actually has an economy, unlike Hearthstone or Duelist, which is another thing for me, is like, if I can actually turn this, like, if there's a secondary market, I'm also a little more okay with it. But,
actually, that's probably my biggest gripe with Duelist, if I have one, is that I think it follows too closely to Hearthstone. I wish it did more of its own thing in every regard. Like, too many of the cards felt too similar. The, like, effects felt too similar and stuff. That's what made it easy for me to get into.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, the thing where it's just like, well, I could just play Hearthstone.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like the tactical combat added so many more variations in a game. So it stayed fresh much longer than Hearthstone for me, because I felt like every game I was doing, like, different stuff to an extent. Like there are just way more choices on the table for me. Sure.
Talk to me about Massive Chalice and why this is even worth talking about.
Yo, so part of it is I fucking love turn-based strategy games. Like that is my jam.
Oh, are you stoked for XCOM 2?
I am stoked for XCOM 2.
Dude, I hear that like some of the problems I had with XCOM 1 they fixed and like just added more stuff on. I'm in.
It for sure looks really good. Like, it just looks much nicer.
I really like the way they take it, too.
And, like, they added way more into character customization, which is really good, too.
Oh, totally. Like, when that game comes out, I'm basically going to do a stream where, like, people I know are going to be characters.
Yeah. No, XCOM 2 looks really good. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah.
So, Massive Chalice, for me, the big thing is it actually solves my number one complaint with that XCOM game.
Okay.
Just with XCOM, all the difficulty in it is up front. But as you go along and your soldiers get more trained, they get so good that then the missions are less challenging unless everyone dies, and then you're just fucked.
I hear they're going to fix that with 2 as well.
So the difficulty curve I just thought was broken in XCOM into a way, like I was doing the final mission, I'm like, this is too easy. Like I'm just bored now. Whereas it's really difficult up front. Massive Chalice is the way Massive Chalice solves that problem is it gives all your characters like an actual age where they grow old and die as you're waiting for the next attack. But then if units are really good, they then when they die, they leave behind like particular items so that your next generation will have better stuff to fight with. Like you'll create a special weapon that has a unique graphic on it that shows up with them. So I think that's really cool. I think that was a neat addition, and it keeps the game fresh over its whole run, and it gives you like little story arcs to people as you see them old, and maybe you change their job like within like you assign every person to a specific place within your city. So like if a person's really old, oh maybe they go become a scholar, or maybe they become the person that trains all your units from then on. So I just thought all that stuff's cool, and they're neat little touches. Like if a building is being invaded, the particular people that are like stationed there that aren't supposed to be combat anymore, they will show up on the battlefield and they can fight and die in that like fight scene. It's like if your scholar place gets attacked, your scholars are all there in white robes with like hammers and they can fight, although they're not that good, but they're there. It's like a neat little touch.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has this whole weird like where you're breeding people to make like with genetic stuff. It's just a whole fucking rabbit hole of like finding who's the right mate for this person or whatever. Like it's just funny bullshit, but I like it, and it adds a whole nother layer to the game where like so there's a part where I'm like managing my civilization, and then there's a part where I'm doing combat that I like. The other thing I like about it in terms of actual combat is there's a bigger focus on melee stuff. So like they're units that are just called caberjacks, and they just have fucking giant hammers and they just fucking hit shit. And it's more engaging to me and more interesting on the strategic level than just the cover-based shooter stuff of XCOM.
They're adding that in XCOM 2 as well.
Yes, they're adding stuff like people have swords and stuff. So that looks cool.
Yeah, it does.
But whatever, this game came out this year and that's what I played.
Sure. Okay, fair enough.
Like so I just fucking that's a game I just loved. Like I played 20 hours of that thing in like 2 sittings or something. Like
that's fair. Okay.
Like I love that thing. That thing's really cool. Like it has some issues, but it was also like a $20 game. So like that it doesn't have some of like the graphical high polish or stuff. Like I'm not that wrong on because it gets so much right about the core experience. Also, like it's completely different from other fucking Double Fine stuff. Like it's about the core gameplay and like the structure to it rather than just being jokey. Like there's some narration stuff, but whatever. Like it doesn't feel like a Double Fine game.
Thank God.
Because Brad Muir.
Yeah, Brad Muir's great. That dude smiles way too much.
Yeah.
But not too much to be creepy.
Yeah. I wonder what he's doing at Valve. I wonder.
Probably like tech support or something. I don't know. A lot of people in Valve.
Dota hats.
Dota hat. Oh, that would be so good.
I mean, he loves Dota. So.
Dota's great.
Dota
kind
is
of.
Great. I was playing Dota with Spart yesterday. We had a fucking really fun match.
I played a match with Spart like a few days ago, actually.
Yeah.
We can get into that later.
Yeah. I mean, I yelled, like, I basically was like, Spart was like, oh yeah, I just finished playing Dota. I'm like, Spart, why did you not tell me you were playing Dota? Every time you play Dota, I want you to ask me if I want to play. God damn it. I would always be up for Dota if someone else wants to play. I just can't play that game by myself anymore.
Yeah.
I just can't. I was so rusty. Oh my god. We move on though.
Now, I'm gonna jump over StarCraft 2 because you kind of already talked about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about MOBAs. Heroes of the Storm is your number 4. It was my number 8 because I fell out of love with that game in a weird way. This is a weird thing. This is a problem Hearthstone had as well. When you're playing in like the alpha and the beta and stuff like that, like you're kind of done when release actually happens. Like you played so much of it. It's kind of what happened to me. I petered off in the end. But dude, that game's real good.
That game's real good. Like for me, this game was higher on my list till like right before I wrote it, and I was just like writing stuff about other games, and I'm like, I care about these games way more than I care about Hearthstone at this point. Like,
yeah,
Hearthstone was like the game I played the most this year. I think. Like it doesn't track time, so I can't verify that. But I'm pretty sure I spent the most time in Hearthstone.
You played a lot of Hearthstone?
I mean, not Hearthstone. I mean Heroes of the Storm.
Heroes,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Heroes of the Storm. I wish that game tracked time, because then I would know. But I definitely spent a lot. I spent a lot of time playing by myself. I spent a lot of time playing with other people.
Yeah.
As much as I'm kind of done playing that game by myself, I'm still at a place where if someone is playing, I would play with them. I don't know that I'd want to play Hero League. I just think Hero League is broken in a bunch of ways that makes it not fun.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I just like that game. Like, I just think it's fun. It's like the way that they took MOBAs and made them a less stressful experience, and like allowed all these people to play it that I could then play with. That like I would never touch Dota. Like they pulled it off in a way that like is fucking hard, because the MOBA genre was like locked with Dota and League, and they broke through in terms of making a game that was different enough that it appealed to a more casual audience.
For sure. Yeah.
And it was fun. So
the biggest problem I had with Heroes that I'm glad they stepped away from was how hard they were pushing like an esports angle, and I'm glad they just kind of changed back to their like, no, this is just like the fun MOBA. This isn't the competitive one.
No, it doesn't work on that end.
It doesn't at all. It breaks actually when you try to look at it that way. When you're trying to think about like min-maxing your build and stuff, it just loses everything that makes it charming.
It makes everything that makes it charming, and they didn't build that game for that. Like, Hero League is not a good way to play the game if you want to learn how to play it competitively. It's not. Like, it's a whole different thing, and it's a whole different beast.
The way you play that game, if you're not, like, buying characters and stuff, is you download it, you play whatever is on the free rotation that week, and you just kind of, like, try different builds of their, like, skills, basically, throughout that week, and then rinse and repeat the next week with 5 new characters or whatever. Like, that's how you play that game, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, and that game to me is like the testament to, like, if I'm really love a game and that's free to play and I'm spending a lot of it, if they don't want me to buy blind boxes and like I know what I'm getting, I am okay spending money in it, but like don't give me blind boxes.
Sure.
Fuck, I want to know what I'm buying.
That being said, they do need to take that price down a little bit. It is way too steep. As somebody who owns all of it, it's way too steep.
It's way too steep. I mean, it's too steep, and I don't think I've ever. There are only a couple things I've bought that weren't on 50% sale, and even those prices are too high.
Yeah. Like, even at the 50% sale, I think you could get away with that being the 100%, so the 50% would be reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of rough if you want to buy something.
Fuck, I like how their shit looks. Like, whatever.
Oh yeah, no, you're getting a fully newly designed. Like, somebody put time into these skins because they're completely differently designed characters.
Yeah,
but
like it was at the point where like I feel okay doing it, even though I think it's overpriced. Like
you kind of have to admire them just being like, no, this is what it costs, $10 for Tassadar. You want it or not? It's like, oh, okay,
yeah.
Okay, Blizzard.
He turns into a jet. Fuck.
Yeah.
You got me.
I know. It's so dumb how they do.
Yeah,
the level of polish. Fuck, man.
I'm really looking forward to their like arena mode of even more focused map stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna get me hooked on that game again. But
yeah. Since this is a jumping off point where I can come back in, my number 7 was Rainbow Six Siege, which is a weird addition, but I'll explain to you why, because I know you're not a big fan of this game.
No, like for me, it was just like that was a game where it's like I'm playing this with people and I'm still not having fun. That's really bad. Like and I fucking hate Uplay. I don't want to deal with that shit.
Oh, I'll talk about Uplay in a second.
I don't feel comfortable putting money into this game.
Yeah,
like, I just don't, because I was never gonna play that thing by myself.
I'll talk about Uplay in a second.
Yeah. Sure.
Rainbow Six Siege, I kind of felt the same way until, like, I don't know, I got an urge, I bought it, and played with Spart for a bit, had some fun, but there was this weird, like, moment where I was playing by myself with randoms, and it clicked, and it was like, oh, I've been playing this all wrong, and then, like, I just started, like, shooting out holes in walls to, like, get better, like, to look down a hallway without them seeing me, or, like, blowing up ceilings to, like, just fall in and just, like, nuke a bunch of people or something. Like, there's a weird level of depth to that game where no match is ever the same because of the way you can, like, enter or, like, exit areas. that I really, really like. And I had a lot of fun playing it solo. And then after playing it, this is a weird thing, is that playing it solo is one of those things where, like, people are berating. This is kind of a MOBA thing for people that aren't in the know for MOBAs as well. People, like, will berate you and they'll, like, tell you some garbage, call you shit. But then, like, every now and then, you'll get somebody, or, like, you'll see somebody, or, like, they'll tell you, like, a really cool thing to try. And then you'll do it. You'll feel like a badass, and then you'll just keep doing that, and you feel like you're learning how the game plays. And then you get frustrated playing with, like, friends because they haven't had that moment yet. So, like, we were playing with a few people, and, like, it was John's first time playing ever. And I was just, like, we were losing so bad. And, like, I just kept telling him, it's like, dude, you're gonna need to put, like, another, like, 4 hours in with a bunch of us, like, until this game clicks. And that's a ridiculous thing to ask of anybody. But at the same time, as a MOBA player, that's what I like. I like the weird learning curve where it's like, this isn't actually a shooter. This is a weird, like, tower defense game, basically. So there's things I really, really appreciate that game does. And I think it's a shame that when you're playing it in the beta, it really hides that shit from you. Like, it's not enough time with that game. And I don't know. It's a weird thing where it's like, there has to be a moment of clarity for people that play that game. And I could totally understand if people never reach that, because it's a weird set of circumstances that you have to kind of reach for it to even make any sense with how that game should be played. And then it makes sense. You see what other people are doing. You're learning new tactics, and, like, you're trying different things out every time. It, like, instead of trying builds, you're trying, like, placement of stuff. Whereas in a MOBA, you'll try, like, buy different things, or, like, skill up different skills in a certain order. In this, you'll, like, instead of this grenade, I'm going to bring this grenade. Instead of this character, I'm going to bring thermite. Instead of the, like, you're trying little different things to, like, edge your game out. And it's really, really satisfying when it works out, and really, really irritating when it doesn't. But I don't know. There's so much more to that game than I ever thought, and I was so stoked to play with, like, random people, which is a weird thing to say for multiplayer games.
I mean, like, it just wasn't a buy for me because I was, like, not having fun, even though I was playing with friends. Like, that's, like, for me, it's like any game I can enjoy with friends. Like, I just wasn't having fun. So it was like, I'm not going to pay money for this.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I tried doing one of the single player challenges and was like, oh no, this is nothing that this just isn't something I'm ever going to play. It's nothing that I want.
I love the situations. I spent a lot of time doing those.
Yeah, so for me, if that clicked, like, immediately, I would have, but it was like, immediately, I was like, no, this is nothing I want.
Yeah. Uplay is still terrible.
Uplay is garbage.
I've been having somebody try to hack my account recently.
Nice.
And this is what it does. I'll be logged into Uplay, and then it'll log me out of Uplay on my computer. It'll say somebody else is logging in. And then, so this is irritating because it's kicking me out, basically, even though I'm the owner. I send an email, like, Uplay doesn't have a two-step authentication process. It's just like, oh, forgot password, put in your email, and we'll change it.
Great.
Yeah. So I send them an email, basically berating them, saying, so when are you guys going to get on this train of, like, you sell shit and you're going to give it, like, your people some security and stuff like that? They sent me an email back basically saying I'm at fault. They're victim blaming here, saying, like, well, your computer is probably compromised. You should do this. Make multiple fake email addresses, change it multiple times every day, and then, like, when you're sure your computer's clear, then use it again. So, I'm fighting the urge to basically call customer support and just be like, what the fuck is with you guys? But
that's ridiculous. That is unreasonable.
That is completely you know what? I should screenshot that fucking email, because they actually tell me to make multiple fake emails to try to lose this hacker guy in the trail, and then I can use, like, a normal email when I'm sure that my computer's not compromised. Like, or you know what? I'll just go back to Valve, who I have, like, 1,000 fucking games with and never had a problem with.
Yeah.
Fucking idiots. Uplay's terrible. Rainbow Siege 6 is okay. My number 6 was Fallout 4. I can't say it any better than I did on TDP, whereas that game is a broken, kind of buggy piece of shit that I spent way too much time in and had a good time doing.
Mm-hmm.
That game has a lot of faults. That game is Fallout 3.5 and not even great at that. It's not worthy of a number 4 because the number 4 makes you think that they tried something new. They don't. And the things they did well in 3 New Vegas, they took out, which was all the RP elements and the dialogue system.
Well, it's stuff they didn't do. So it was a different developer.
Right, but, like, they did in Fallout, right? Like, in...
Well, New Vegas specifically was Obsidian, right?
Right, but New Vegas used the dialogue system and stuff from 3 still.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like they took that. They took out tried and true stuff, tried their own stuff. It sucked. Yeah. There's a lot of shitty things in Fallout 4. For once, the shooting is not really one of them. Everything else still kind of is. Exploring that environment, it's one of these things where Fallout 4 got a pass. It was kind of like, I know you're failing your grades, or like, I know you have some failing grades, Fallout, but, like, we really need you on the football team, so I'm going to pass you this one time. Like, that's kind of what this was. And, yeah, it was fine. My number 5 was Ori and the Blind Forest, because of reasons I stated. Number 4 was Life is Strange for reasons I stated. So, your number 3 was Mario Maker, which I didn't even put on any list. For
so I mean, I've spent
reasons.
over 150 hours with that thing. Like,
yeah.
I'm obsessed with that thing. Like, there isn't actually a day that I don't like think about it or just boot it on and fiddle with it. Like, for me, it's both. It's great to tinker with. Just tinkering with levels. It is the biggest thing is, like, mechanically that game plays better than other Mario games. Like, the iterative design on Mario is much more apparent here because going back to those old styles that are much more
Well,
appealing.
I mean, they updated it.
Yeah, it plays the way you think those old games should play, but don't actually, if you go back and play them.
Well, the way people think those games did play until they try again.
Yeah. So, like, for people who are actually playing, the only people who can tell are people who are playing those old games, like, right at the same time they're playing Mario Maker. And they're like, oh, there are all these weird differences. But otherwise, people don't notice. So I think that's all great. I think that it plays better mechanically is fucking great. I think that it allows for good levels, that use the Super Mario World tools. Is like a thing in Nintendo. It's like been a black mark on Nintendo that they haven't had that in a long time. Because for me, Super Mario World was like number 1 on my overrated thing, specifically because I think the tools and mechanics in that game are great, and I think the level design in Super Mario World didn't do them justice. So that there's a world where those things can be matched. Like, I think the ROM scene around the custom map stuff around Super Mario World exists a lot because those tools are so great, and because the game isn't challenging enough and didn't push those tools enough. Again, Mario Maker isn't higher only because its way of feeding you levels, specifically the 100 Mario Challenge, is terrible at feeding you levels of, like, a fair level.
Sure.
It's really good at feeding you either bad, easy garbage or the hardest fucking shit. But they've solved a lot of that with the search functionality they've added into the game. Like, even though it puts you out to a web browser, you can still do it all from the gamepad, and you click play on a level in the web browser, and it puts you right back in the game, loading you into a level. Like, it's in the game sufficiently that's all cool, and that's actually a really good way to find levels, is searching because you can search more by star rating and by specific filters that they've added onto the game. And I just fucking like making stuff, and I like playing stuff I've made. So for me, like, a lot of the normal difficulty level was me making challenges for myself and then playing them. Like, the way how quick that game goes from you put something in there and then you do it, like, you play the level, is, like, huge to me. Like, play testing on that is fun in, like, a way it isn't when people actually make video games.
Right. The reason it didn't reach any of mine is because I like the tool set, but I didn't like a lot of what people put into it.
Yeah, I mean, if you only put in so much time looking for stuff, and specifically if you're playing whatever levels, like, it's easy to miss the good stuff that's in there. Because there's a lot of bad stuff, and there's a lot of stuff people make that is fun for them to make that's not so much fun for other people to play.
Also, I kind of just don't like a lot of Mario stuff. in
Yeah,
general.
that's fair. So like
So
for me,
like,
Mario
yeah,
is like core to my being. Like my first
sure.
video game is like Mario Land 2. So
See,
I
the
just
weird thing
love
is
that
though,
stuff.
if we're talking Mario Land 2, I really like that game.
Yo, I love that. That's my first video game. It was the
Okay.
first video game I owned.
That was not my first video game, but that's like the first Mario game that I was like, maybe there's something to this 2D platforming thing.
Yeah. It was that, and then it was Wario Land, and it was
Wario Land's great. That whole
Wario
series.
Land is like one of my all-time favorite games. And then Donkey Kong was a really good puzzle platformer on the Game Boy too. The the they gave you like the tools they added to that game with like your ridiculous flip kicks, flip jumps, jump super high. Like, oh man, the mechanics they added to that thing are amazing.
Hmm.
To Donkey Kong 95 or 94, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, like Mario Maker, it's fucking great, but it can be hard to find good stuff. So I get it if it doesn't hit with people who A, don't love Mario, or B, don't want to search, like put in that little
Or both?
or both. Yeah, both too,
Yeah.
and slash or.
But I do recognize that like the way they made making levels and stuff like that is like I don't usually like using this word, but it's revolutionary in a way
Yeah.
things haven't been in video games for fucking decades.
Yo, if I were arguing for what I think the best video game of the year was, I'd have a hard time not arguing for Mario Maker of the best game of the year.
Sure.
Like in terms of what it does, it's fucking incredible. It's an incredible thing.
Unless we're talking semantics, because the best thing it does isn't the game part, it's the tool set. But that's again semantics.
Yeah. And like the part of the what makes the tool set great is gameplay stuff. So
Sure. Well, no, just the feedback is like what you said specifically is
like specifically like letting you play your level like immediately.
yeah. That specifically is what makes it great. If it didn't have that, it would actually fail a lot more than it does.
Yeah, but I mean it's like how the quickness of like a Tony Hawk game totally matters. Like the to be able to like restart and just fucking get in and get out. Like there are games where that fucking matters for, and that Mario
Yeah.
Maker did that in the level creation. Fucking ooh.
This is
That's what makes it something I can turn on for like 5 minutes and like mess with and tinker and then pass off.
this is kind of where Duck Game fails because you go into like I tried making some levels in it.
Mhm.
You like make a level or something, and then like there's a different button to jump into it, and then you have to like jump back. I don't know. It's not as smooth.
Yeah,
Which is kind of a
it's the
shame.
problem like every game that's had a level editor has had.
Yeah.
It's not level editors are not a particularly new thing. The one that's actually fucking fun.
Is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. My
So
number 3
it's-
was Undertale.
Yeah, fair enough.
For reasons we talked about. There's no
Yep.
reason to talk about it more. That game is okay.
Yep.
Tales from the Borderlands is your number 2, and I hear a lot of good things about this from literally everybody who's played it.
Like it wouldn't be your number 2 because again, at the end of the day, it's a Telltale game. Like,
But it
its
might have made my
story-
list.
It might have. I don't know. It's a really good story. It's really good. So for me, it gave me character action throughout that was really good and funny. It fulfilled the promise of making me feel like my time with the story mattered in the way it tied things up in terms of in like a mechanical thing it did with the way it structured its game. And there was one other thing, but and it like throughout the game I felt like my actions as the player like were lining up, like what I wanted lined up enough with what the characters in the game were doing. Like I felt like I was on the same page as them because they was interested in heist. It was like a heist movie made into a video game. It was really cool.
Sounds dope.
It's dope. It's fun.
I don't use that term lightly.
Yeah, I really recommend that thing. It's easily Telltale's best game. Fucking easily.
Honestly, it sounds like the best thing with the name Borderlands on it.
Oh, I mean, I totally agree. But I have a fucking active hatred for all the story and dialogue in Borderlands. I hate all that stuff.
Okay.
Ugh.
I don't hate it, but it's irritating to me.
Yeah.
So
for me, I've never really played those games. I've just seen that stuff,
Oh,
and that stuff has all been a turn off.
in the same. Oh, I don't know if we can talk about that still. Whatever, Battleborn.
I mean,
They try the same thing, and it's just as irritating.
yeah, I mean that whole mission that has that story stuff is like on IGN, so whatever.
Okay, that's really really shitty.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Phantom Pain for the reasons I talked about.
Yep.
My number 1 was Witcher 3 for the reasons I talked about. But what was your number? What was the best game of the year?
For me, it was Persona 4 Dancing All Night because that was the game I had the most profound gameplay experience with. Like,
Right.
the experience of playing a game and having a skill curve where I felt like the game was helping me get better at it and pushing me to greater heights of challenge along with me playing it, which is like what I want from skill-based games. That was the game that had it this year for me. And on top of that, like I love the music. I love it. Involved dancing characters that I love from Persona 4 that I could dress up. Like all that stuff is on top. But really, like of all the rhythm games I played, this was the one that I really felt like the easier difficulties prepare you for the harder difficulties, and I felt like I was being pushed forward through the progression of the game. Whereas a lot of rhythm games, I feel like the easier difficulties are too easy and can be boring, but not hard enough and not pushing you to the harder difficulties. So when I ever take a step up, I always feel overwhelmed immediately. Whereas I felt like Persona 4 Dancing All Night pushed me upward through the difficulty levels. I felt like I was learning things because of how the game was built. Like I just had the best skill curve with that game. It was the most fun to like. I spent a lot of time with that thing, and over 30 hours, closer to 40, I think, at this point. But
Would it be any different if you didn't care or never played like Persona 4, had no interest in those characters or anything?
so I mean, that's what like got me in the door. That's what made me matter. Like it's
Right.
number one on the list because the gameplay specifically I compared it to other rhythm games this year. Like I made sure to play all those other games because I wanted to make sure, am I just crazy or is this game actually doing something that I personally really like, that maybe if you were better at rhythm games it wouldn't work the same way. Because I feel like if someone was really fucking good at rhythm games, it may be too easy because something like Super Beat Sonic is fucking way beyond me. Like that game is hard as shit, but I don't feel like it prepares me at all to like take a fucking step out of the easiest difficulty. Or of like Hatsune Miku and Taiko are fine, but again, it's like there's a level of playing this game that I'm comfortable at and is fun, and it's not helping me get to the next level though.
Right. Okay.
Whereas like Persona 4 Dancing All Night, I played that game on normal, was like fucking a little overwhelming for me. So I played through it on easy, and then I'd been comfortable with easy, and then suddenly I was like, oh, normal, I can like handle this. I'm getting it. And now I play that game in hard is like fucking my default difficulty. Like I can just play except for the hardest DLC courses, which are like a step up difficulty. I can play everything on hard like immediately. And then there's one difficulty beyond that that's hit and miss with because you have to be fucking on.
Right.
But so there's still like a greater challenge. Like that's the first game I've ever gotten a platinum in.
Okay. Cool.
And then it even has built-in game achievements to like keep you pushing beyond that. Like that thing is just cool. But obviously, if you care about Persona 4, it matters. Like all the stuff around it is way better.
Sure.
Again, like those are all songs that I was already familiar with, and I like all of them. So, like, I think they're just good, cool like J-pop songs in all cases. But there are also songs that have lyrics, which is like one of my things about what I care about games is I like the sound of the human voice, or even Vocaloid stuff gets it a little bit of just singing in songs is very important to me, which is like a big thing of like the one knock that Undertale doesn't just connect with me on its soundtrack is all its tracks are just don't have any audio on them, and just also that they're much better in the game than they are as set tracks outside the game. But whatever. Like Persona 4, that's like a soundtrack I listened to a lot just on its own this year too. like I just really like those songs. So a rhythm game where you love the songs is got a fucking huge step up on other things for one thing.
Fair enough.
But that was like for gameplay, that was the best experience I had of like progression curve. Because the other candidate is Heroes, and Heroes doesn't really have that.
Right.
Because once you learn the maps, like any hero is like whatever. Like the streamlining stuff makes it so it doesn't hit the highs of something like Dota, where like I'm learning fucking all the time. I feel like I play Heroes. I'm like, oh yeah, I get this. This all makes sense
Right.
at this point. Like once you get over the initial hump.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I don't agree with a lot of your list, but that's totally okay because I also didn't play a lot of them.
Yeah. No. My big intro for my list this year was like, this year was a good game for like a lot of games came out. I don't
Yeah.
know how great it was at like terms of great games at the top, but just a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like people's top 10 lists are gonna be very personal to like games they liked because there are like so many games they could only play games that they liked. Like,
Totally.
there's plenty of stuff that people wouldn't check out outside their box unless it was Undertale, and people wouldn't shut up about that, so they had to play it anyway.
I fall in that camp, so I agree. So this is kind of the weird thing for me, and this is kind of why I don't like how TDP does their Game of the Year thing, and I've voiced this to them before, but whatever.
Yeah.
Like, if we're talking like top 10, we don't really have to describe why it's on there, because it's kind of just like, well, it's on this list, so like it's just personally one of the best games of the year. The honorable mentions, I think we do too fast on TDP, because I think we should talk about honorable mentions a little bit at length, I think, because these are the games that didn't quite make it for whatever reason, and I think that's far more interesting than like what was the thing that held it back, what were the things that did really well that makes it even mentionable, because like the top 10, like these are my best games of the year, like these are why they're mentioned.
They're like the games that personally spoke to you. So it's like there's like a much more emotional investment than just games that like I thought this thing did this cool thing, like
Sure.
this specific thing.
Let's talk about honorable mentions. We have some similar overlap with some stuff. Some of the things you have here, not actually released games.
Yeah.
Like, this is something I don't know. I was going to do actually, like, so I didn't really say any of this. I had a project planned for December where I was going to do like this huge thing for like Game of the Year, because there were so many games that I really liked this year.
Yeah.
And it was all going to be like YouTube content and all that stuff. And then life happened and I got fucked. Like, it just started with like this trip to Chicago, getting sick, like Christmas time, pulling like double shifts. Like, my life ended basically, besides work. So none of that happened. So this is why I kind of want to talk more about honorable mentions, and why I'm kind of pissed off that like out of the 20 that I had, I got to mention like 15 of them on TDP. Everyone else was like, I have 2 honorable mentions. Like, motherfucker, you didn't play anything this year then. Because like a lot of shit came out that was really good.
I know. I played games I like that aren't even on my honorable mentions.
Yeah, that too. But this is one of the things I wanted to do. You put on your list, not actually release games. What I was going to do is like early access games, betas, alphas, and shit like that. Stuff that's not actually out this year, but I played this year.
I felt more inclined to do that just because Duelist made my list. Like,
sure,
even that's a beta, but fuck, I love that thing, even as it is. Like, regardless of what they put out, that was a game for this year. So
tell me a little bit about Unreal Tournament, because I can't really help any discussion here.
Yo, you know Unreal Tournament?
I do.
They made another one of those, and it's free, and the graphics look fucking amazing, and that gameplay is so fucking good. It's like the biggest adrenaline high I got this year is fucking like playing, particularly like when you're playing all snipers maps, and just fucking...
That sounds great.
You fucking respawn like almost instantly. It's fucking... like Twitch, like just fucking that kind of shooter where it's not about cover. It's all about fucking running around really quickly, grabbing power-ups, grabbing guns.
You don't get those anymore.
Yeah, you don't. Like, I've been playing fucking Quake Live, which is like Quake 3.
Yeah.
But this game has usurped that because it just looks better. It
Sure.
has all that, like, and free-to-play stuff, it's like structure for like people to make mods and make maps. like and get paid for that stuff. Like that stuff's all designed in there. But for me, it's just like I turn it on. I go into quick match as it is. I just fucking play a couple rounds and like my heart is pumping. Like I'm fucking in it and it's fun.
Yeah.
Like damn. But like again, it's like a quick pop in and pop out game. I'm not spending a lot of time with it. But for those like brief moments, it's fucking exhilarating.
Yeah.
Also, because I haven't been able to convince anyone to play with me.
I mean, things have calmed down on the game front now. I'll
Yeah.
play, like, I can play a few matches here and there.
Yeah,
Because I like those games.
Again, I don't know how long I could play that game for an extended sitting, but like, it's a great jump in, jump out game.
Yeah. Spera, I'll talk to you about, because that is Tetra's Battle Gaiden, and it's amazing.
Yes.
But because it's not a Tetris game, it has those weird pieces that break my fucking brain.
Yeah, they're frustrating. For me, really, the reason this doesn't make the list is because in its beta, you can't play against people that
Sure.
aren't like randomly assigned to you.
Right.
And like, just I like as someone who's played it a lot. Sometimes there's not that many people playing. You'll get paired with like one other person over and over again. Like it has beta things.
Right.
But that game's fun. Like
It is.
It's just cool, and the idea. I really appreciate that you have someone just going. You know what? There needs to be an online version of Tetris Battle Gaiden. It just needs to happen.
Absolutely. Yep.
So we'll make our concessions to not get sued where we need to. Because fucking Ubisoft owns the Tetris license in North America, so fuck everything. Making their laggy
Yeah.
ass Tetris. They made Tetris lag.
I know. It's
They
so
put it out
funny.
on Steam and it's still broken.
It's so funny. It's so bad. I mean, okay, this is a big one. I wanted to put this on my list so bad. I couldn't, though. It's not even because it's in beta. It's because it is in such closed beta, not everyone could play it. Like, if it was an open thing where people could just download it, I would have still counted it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
for
I
sure.
couldn't. Because it was one of those, it almost felt like a weird, gross privilege thing or something, where it's just like, yeah, I got to play it and you didn't, so that's not my game of the year. But Overwatch,
Yeah. So that was like the thing. It's like I spent like 9 hours with that game. I fucking loved every minute of it.
yeah,
I'm so excited for that thing to be out.
yeah,
Even though I couldn't actually play with anyone.
yeah, that's a big... See, that's the thing, is that's a big problem. That wasn't even an issue for me.
No,
I was so enthralled with queuing with random people.
I know. Like, so like for me, it's like a lot of like my list and why that number 10 spot was like, I spent a long time not putting something there for
Because
sure.
Overwatch was there,
Because I'm
maybe?
like, Overwatch is there. Like, I look at all my ambivalent games. I'm like, these could all be here, but I'd rather have Overwatch there. And I'm not really comfortable with putting Overwatch there. There's got to be something out there that was just I fucking like.
Yeah.
And then I finally got my hands on Tycho after importing it, but it was just joy. But yeah, Overwatch is fucking good, dude. I'm stoked for that game.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, if anybody likes, like, the Team Fortress type, like, class-based objective shooter sort of things, you need to, like, get Overwatch. This isn't even one of those, like, fanboy Blizzard things. Like, that game
This
is,
game is-
it's
That
fucking
game is something
good.
special. It's special.
It is. In a way that, like, Blizzard games actually haven't been in a while. Because, like, Blizzard games, while always polished and very good, are usually just iterative on their own other games, and, like, just kind of, like, taking the old model of the game they used to have and, like, updating it. This is a completely new special thing, and you should really check it out.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that fucking thing to be out. Jesus Christ. I want to play with Spart so bad.
Oh man. I just want to play. I just want to play it. Period. So bad. Fuck.
Yeah, I guess you and I didn't get to play together, because you were using my account.
Thanks for that, by the way. I really appreciate it. Really nice. I was so salty I didn't get an invite. I
Yeah.
was salty.
Like, I was pissed off when people were talking about it, and then I checked my spam folder when I got home, and I was just like, oh, I shouldn't have, like, talked shit. Because now I feel like a jack. On your honorable mentions, you have this DLC here. I'm just gonna say thank you for not putting this on your top 10. I would have been bummed if you did.
Yeah, that was another one I was thinking about on my top 10.
I would have been bummed. I don't even know why, because in the end it doesn't matter. But like just having DLC there, I don't know. There's something weird about it to me.
If Trespasser had been as good as Mass Effect Citadel was, it would be on my list, but it's not. Because I fucking love Mass Effect Citadel, dude. Let me tell you, that is my favorite piece of Mass Effect, probably. Period.
I guess we haven't said what DLC
interactions.
we're talking about yet, though.
Yeah, I sort of just lopped in together all of Dragon Age Inquisition's DLC because it all came out this year, and I played all three big story things.
Yeah.
Trespasser is the one though, because that's like takes place 2 years after the main story and is like the epilogue for that game, and makes that game have like a satisfying conclusion instead of an ending that makes you feel, man, I like this thing a lot, but I could go for like another one, like a sequel. Like for me, these 3 DLC packs were like, oh, now I don't need a sequel. Now they can move on, and I'm not like mad at them. Like, okay, good. You finished your thing. Now you can make another game in this universe if you want.
Sure. Okay.
Not. Like, I got my satisfying conclusion. I'm good. Like, oh, cool. Like, and they just had a lot of good character interaction in Trespasser. Like, they give you, what they do is they put you in like a new area. So then it has like the standard, like, go around to talk to everyone for new conversations as like you do certain missions and stuff. It's like it broken up. So it's like it's like playing a different game, kind of. It's just much smaller because it's,
Sure.
And it's a lot of it's about like contextualizing what the Inquisition meant to you, what you think its like legacy should be.
Yeah.
So it's like it's contextualized correctly as an epilogue thing. I just like it, and I just really fucking love Inquisition. Like that was my number 3 game last year. So
Right.
and most of my complaints were it's like, oh, you have like technical things about how this kind of game plays that WoW does way better. Like I'm kind of annoyed that you didn't do as good, but like your story is really good, so whatever. I like how you contextualize stuff. Again, WoW was my best game last year, so whatever.
Like I know I should probably feel gross that it was mine last year as well, but I still don't. It got me back into that game in a way that game hadn't since Wrath. So whatever. That was the best game of last year.
Yep.
I'm not even fucking sorry.
Stuff like Citadel and putting just considering Draenor the best game last year. It's like DLC is whatever. It's that Trespasser wasn't quite good enough to make my list. Like I just didn't think it was quite there. I really like it. I really like it. It makes Inquisition a complete thing. Like really, I would say you play Inquisition, maybe get the other 2 if you're really hungry. I would suggest more Jaws of Hakon because it's just a whole big open area. But that's only if you've really done everything else in the main game already. But like if you just like the story and you want to see how it ends, like Trespasser is a thing. Like it's the end of that story.
Sure. But this is a game that was on my honorable mentions kind of for the same thing. Let's talk about Until Dawn.
Yo, that thing is cool. I watched that thing be played through twice. I can't play it because I don't have a PS4, but it's cool. It's exactly what it needed to be.
It's exactly what I wanted it to be, honestly.
Yeah.
So
game.
Yeah.
Using the fucking David Cage style game sort of design.
Yeah.
It's like don't get up your own butt too far with your story. Just have dumb characters and let me see them die in weird ways. Like it just plays out as it should.
I'll tell you what the biggest problem I had not playing it myself that would have been a perfect game I would have loved to stream. I would have absolutely loved to have done that. But so on TDP, for anybody who's listening to this who doesn't listen to that or whatever, and you could go do that if you want to. But the thing we have on TDP is called Pile of Shame, like games we didn't get to or whatever. Yeah. The reason I didn't include this, Halo 5, or these other games that I actually wanted to play on that is because I don't think there's anything shameful in not wanting to spend $600 to play a fucking video game.
Mm-hmm.
And what I got from Until Dawn, I feel like I got the full experience watching other people play it, and I was totally happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's like a bad horror movie in that, you want to see other people's reactions to stuff.
Yeah, that too.
the more value I want from it, I can only get from streams of it because I want to see people like react to it, to the dumb stuff that happens. Like you
Sure.
want that audience feel.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I never actually knew anything about Contradiction, so why don't you tell me about Contradiction?
So Contradiction is the thing I watched because Giant Bomb East, basically what happened was they did a quick look on it,
Okay.
and then they kept playing it after they had finished their quick look,
Okay.
like enough to put up another video. They just fucking loved it so much.
Okay.
So it's basically it's an FMV like mystery game where you're a detective. You come to a city where there's been a murder, and you're basically investigating it. I can't remember if it's actually it's a murder or if it's just a missing person up front. I think it's a murder.
Okay.
But so the value in it is like the main guy is right on that line of like chewing it and like being funny, but like it's like good, but it's bad. It's like the game jumps all around in terms of quality. It's really like engaging and funny just to see these weird performances.
Okay.
And the thing that makes it really watchable is so the game part of it is you're looking for contradictions between people's statements. You're looking for something someone said or some piece of evidence you found, and you like pair them up, and then that's a contradiction.
Okay.
And that's how you sort of move things forward. The great thing about it is for every little fucking object you get, you can show it to someone, and there's new dialogue recorded specifically for that, for you showing them that specific person this item, and some of it's ridiculous. So like it's just so much FMV. It like is a lot of it. Like at one you like find out, and there's just details in there that are like bullshit to the story, but you can ask fucking every character about it. Like you find out this one guy is making homebrew, so you can ask fucking everyone in the game about this dude's homebrew.
That's pretty great.
And some of them are just like, what are you fucking talking about? Like the big one, like the biggest, the funniest part though, is like you find on some tree, and you've like someone has carved the devil horns into it,
Okay.
and so you can ask anyone. Like he goes up to every single character in games and goes, "Does this mean anything to you?" And he throws them up. You do it to every character you can talk to in the game. It's so dumb.
Huh.
So it's like, it's just a great, like, if you just like dumb FMV,
That's what that is.
that's what that is. And it's
Okay.
just a lot of it. Like,
Huh.
I can't recommend playing it because, like, the interface is, like, bad. It, like, feels like it was made for, like a Laserdisc player or something. Like, the interface just seems really, really wonky and bad. But, like, that video is really good. And, like, there's some really great hammy performances in it.
I know Giant Bomb was like talking it up a lot. I listened to their year-end discussions, which was kind of weird because this year I didn't actually visit their site like at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of weird hearing them talk about games and like saying how like, oh, it was on the site for like 2 weeks or whatever. It's like, oh well, I guess I had no idea.
Like the Giant Bomb thing is really like the culmination of all the conversations they've had over the year. That's what that thing is.
Yeah, I don't listen to the Bombcast either, so it's kind of weird jumping in where they're just like saying like, "Oh, I know what'll be on your list." I'm just sitting here like I have no fucking idea what'll be on this list.
It's a different experience.
Yeah, we can talk about their decisions maybe a little bit later.
Sure.
Moving on, this is a game I had on my honorable mentions, and this almost made my top 10 because of how unique it plays. But Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is a thing that will be hard to replicate in video games.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Like for me, it's like I didn't even play it as a video game. For me, it was like looking through this weird manual. Like that, it's on that list of games I didn't actually play because I never actually touched the video game part. Like it's a totally different thing of these like these story-based things I just watched. But I still didn't touch the video games, so
Yeah.
it's weird.
And
Again,
there's weird
for me,
min-maxing on communication.
Yeah, like for me, it's like you can't. I don't even know I could replicate that experience with that thing again because so much of it is
Yeah.
that like seeing this fucking incomprehensible, or rather purposefully obscured document that I'm like wrestling with, and then wrestling with talking, explaining to people with it too. Like that stuff was all great. And it's like the more you play it, the more of that you lose because you like start rewriting the book in your head or something. Like you figure out the patterns.
There will
It's
be
like
different bomb
magic.
modules and manuals, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we'll get that back for a while.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like at the beginning, like you wouldn't have seen this because you didn't play the actual game part. At the beginning, you have to put in which bomb manual you're using, like a code. So they're going to keep expanding it to different stuff.
That's super smart. That's really good.
Yeah.
That'll make that game fresh again.
Yep.
So that thing's really cool. I really like that thing. Again, it only multiplayer. Only multiplayer.
Yeah.
But like it's a thing. It's also just a cool thing. Like you can play that with people who don't play video games because they don't ever touch a video game. If you could talk them into like playing this board game thing, basically.
It is actually a game that, like, if I was closer with the people I worked with, that would be a great team building exercise for, like, a company.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is all communication and how you, like, relate to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, that game is good.
It's really cool. It's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And didn't require VR at all.
Yeah, no, like, it's weird because VR is, like, not even going to, in a few years, be the niche way to play that game. The niche way will still be, like, somebody on VoIP. Like, it's just such a weird set of circumstances where it's like I'm talking to somebody in another state and they're helping me play this game by reading a manual.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game's real cool. Her Story's on here. It was on mine as well.
Yeah. That's a neat thing. That for me, Her Story is more about like, oh, you can do serious FMV and get certain like visual tick stuff that you can't get with the fidelity of normal CG animation and stuff, and
Right.
you can do it in a way with a performance that's like more taken seriously than just the pure camp of something like Contradiction.
Yeah.
That stuff's cool. For me, it like hooked me when you find the song in that game.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that was when like I just actually love this thing. This thing's just really cool.
Sure.
I'm more like for me, Her Story is incredible because it's like this. It's like a search engine game with a bad search engine.
Yeah.
That it works at all and had me caring at all is what's kind of incredible about it.
You
Like,
get sucked down this rabbit hole of just, like, writing down what words she said.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I found that there's like a cool hack you can do of how you can actually see all the video in the game in order.
Like, you beat the game, don't you?
No. If you search immediately, if you search for nothing, and every video is like has the tag on it blank, so you can just start deleting those, and you can just search, and you'll actually get every video in the game in order.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's only something I learned recently.
That's cool.
Yeah. But that's like a cool thing. Like, I wouldn't really want to play another one of those games. You'd have to find some other way to make a detective thing like that. It wouldn't work again. But in this one case, it worked. Like, cool. You made a thing that was cool and worked.
Yeah.
And was like, had me interested. Success. You did it.
I agree. I also had City Skylines as well as you.
Yeah, I label it as best horror.
Best horror game.
Dude, fucking the traffic nightmares in that thing. Oh my god. And the bus stop nightmares. It was haunting.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, the people that made City Skylines are the people that made Cities in Motion.
Yes.
Like, basically, what SimCity was to cities, they were, before City Skylines, making that sort of idea for, like, transit systems and roadways and stuff.
Yeah.
So they did the smart thing and hid that game with a different title and put buildings around it and became like exactly what everybody wanted SimCity the year before to be, but wasn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that game is super good. Like, it's not even good in the way that, like, when you're thinking of like, oh, best video games I played this year, oh, City Skylines or whatever. It's one of those games where like you'll just start playing it and you'll get enraptured.
Yeah,
like you just lose time.
I fucking lost it like whole weekend to that game.
Yep.
And it's one of those things where like for me the spell breaks because at some point I've actually like built every object that I can.
Yep.
So then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I can't do it. Oh no, now it's all going away. Now I don't care anymore. Okay, I'm free. I'm free.
And then the workshop, Steam Workshop support.
Yo, Steam Workshop support is dope.
It
Also, that
really
they
is.
added a day night cycle.
Yep.
Really cool.
Yeah.
I wish the textures in it were a little more high res.
Yeah.
Like everything looks a little blurry when you zoom in, which is frustrating.
But I like that if you click on a dude, you can follow his whole life for that day if you wanted to.
It's amazing.
Like, you just see him get on a bus, go to work, come home, go pick up his kid from school. Like, it's really weird.
Yeah, like the rabbit holes you can get in with that thing are fucking deep.
Yeah. That game, that was almost on my top 10. Because of that. Like, how deep it goes is amazing.
Yeah, no. I mean, that was one I like earlier in the year I thought was going to be on my list. It was just I played enough other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Like Splatoon. Tell me about Splatoon, because I still haven't played it, actually. That was one of the ones on my pile of shame.
Yeah, I mean, Splatoon is still one I feel like I haven't spent enough time with. But, like, for me, console shooters have never quite work. Like, again,
Right.
I loved GoldenEye at the time, but, like, I never wanted to move past that, because really, if I wanted to play a different, like a shooter, I want to have a mouse and keyboard. Like a first-person shooter, I want that like control you can only get in a computer. Like I just don't like controller shooters that much. But like Splatoon changes stuff enough that like, oh, I don't actually care about precise aiming on shooting people. I care about shooting like the level. Like
Right.
the lack of precision like opens that game up and makes the genre like way more accessible. Like lots of people play that game who didn't play other shooters. And just like so I just fucking appreciate it for that of like making a console shooter that's fresh and like works on its platform of like, oh, this is a kind of shooter that works in this environment really fucking well. And it's fun and it's charming. It's got like great aesthetics. It's got it's got fun music.
Right.
It's just neat. It's just a neat thing, and they supported it really well.
Yeah,
like it's cool.
It really is. I love it a lot.
Like it, and also, I appreciate the idea of like they're making a multiplayer game that assumes people aren't talking to each other. Like that still works because no one's talking to each other. Because so many people don't want to fucking talk to anyone on online games. Like they just don't want to do it ever because it's kind of a nightmare. Like there are games I love that kind of require it, but I feel like too many games are like targeting audiences like that are markets that are going to be too small, but then also like hammering being too complicated.
Sure.
It's one of my issues with Siege is like that game is super cool and complicated. Like, is that going to have a player base to like maintain that and like actually is it like invitable enough that it's worth it?
Well,
like,
the problem is the server support says no.
And and like Uplay is fucking trash on top of that.
Uplay is real fucking bad.
So like, I mean, Nintendo's like Splatoon has hit walls. I know with people who played it a lot of matchmaking stuff of playing with their friends. It's like it can't compete with the experience online, but I like that they didn't completely try to do that. They tried to make a fun thing that would work in the environment of consoles. I think it's cool. It's like less appealing to me than an actual Unreal Tournament or shooter, but I think it's a cool thing, and I had a lot of fun with the limited amount of time I spent with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I have no complaints about it. It's just cool and fun. It's just, again, it's light fun.
What complaints do you have about Yoshi's Woolly World?
I don't really have any complaints with that one either. Again, these are just this is just a fun platformer, and specifically, I've only played it co-op. So, like, I might have spent more time with this if I weren't, like, committed to playing this game with a friend. But the thing is, it plays really well as a co-op game. Specifically, a lot of it has to do with it doesn't have a live system. They got rid of that. So if you kill your friend, it's like whatever. As long as you both don't die and you can keep going, you're not gonna get fucking mad at them.
Right.
And also, they're just dumb ways you can fuck with people. Like, you can eat them. You can accidentally bounce your fucking yarn ball off the wall and hit them in the head, and they fall down slightly. Like, it has all that bouncing stuff, but it's in a much more chill environment than something like New Super Mario Brothers. So it's much more okay because it has like all that charm from Kirby's Epic Yarn, but it's not a fucking cakewalk like Kirby's Epic Yarn is. It's like an actual platformer that's compelling and fun, whereas Kirby's Epic Yarn was like too fucking easy and had no challenge. And you actually, because this game actually has like the amount of like lives with hearts systems from the Yoshi games, instead of just whenever you get hurt you lose fucking these random collectibles that are just fucking endless. Which is how Epic Yarn worked, where like you just couldn't die. Like if you went on Total Biscuit's determination of you can lose, like Kirby's Epic Yarn is not a video game.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
And that yarn style is just fucking adorable. And the one collectible thing that I like in that game, like it has a fucking shit ton of them because it has all the normal ones from Yoshi, but it also has these specific yarn. If you get all 5 of them, you get like a new skin for Yoshi, so you can change how your character looks. Like it's fun to find those because then you get to change something up or just see what was in this level. They're also like amiibo skins, so you can get horrifying Shy Guy Yoshis where his eyes are like on the nose part of Yoshi.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's just a neat thing.
I honestly don't think we have much more to say about Super Beat and Hatsune Miku, because we kind of talked about those in regards to like the other rhythm games you've been playing.
Yes.
I don't have a list written down for you, obviously, to read from, so I put Dying Light on my honorable mentions just because I hated how Dead Island played, and Dying Light fixed that.
Fair enough.
That's all it did. Also, the first-person parkour I thought would be terrible, and it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't great, but it was okay.
Yeah.
The one I was more disappointed I didn't get to talk more about was Soma, because Soma did so much good this year.
Way to force that.
I realized as I was saying it that the Ma wasn't gonna work. Soma has one of the best stories in it of the year.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that the gameplay hindered that, which is why it's an honorable mention and not on a top 10.
Yeah. I think that was like exactly Giant Bomb's take on it.
Yeah, that was one of the few things I agreed with them on.
Yeah.
So, do you know about Soma? Should I talk to you a little bit about Soma?
I know the story.
Okay.
I know what happens. And I know that like that just was not a game for me.
For anybody who doesn't know what Soma's about, it's basically a dude is trapped in like this future where humanity is dying or dead. There's just like the remnants left in a base under the sea. And he's trying to kind of save like whatever remains of humanity there is by putting people's consciousness, which have been for generations now, been able to be like downloaded into a computer, into this thing called the Ark, which they're going to launch into space. And it's kind of like a simulated reality where people in it like think they're real because they're just like, basically if you could download your brain into a computer, like you just keep on living your life sort of thing. And I guess I never understood what the end game was. I guess the idea was that like there's some instance of humanity left, so like if aliens or somebody ever came by, there's like something about like with the species still available.
It's like that reproductive instinct on like a cultural level, just to like.
It's really weird though, because like this is a problem I have with stories is I think too deep about them, and it's just like, well, what's your end game? Like, who cares if you're in space forever? But maybe that's because I don't have a soul or something. I don't know.
Like, you're gonna be playing Dota up there? Like, what are you doing?
What Soma does well, though, is that you're basically this consciousness of a dude who died in the year 2015 from a coma. That before he died, he went to a doctor who was just starting doing this like whole downloading your consciousness into a computer sort of thing. and there's just like an old like scratch file or something that ended up like you're almost like a prototype or something back then. So like your consciousness wakes up in this future because of an AI that's like trying to keep humanity alive or whatever. I know this gets really convoluted, but it brings up a lot of weird questions about like what makes you human, or like does just being conscious and like having the intelligence to like know what you are or think what you are make you have a soul and stuff. Like, can machines have souls if they're just like somebody's downloaded like memories essentially and sort of thing? Like, it's weird. It deals with a lot of weird existential stuff. The way you uncover a lot of the story is by looking around the world, which is really nicely crafted. The problem with it is that it's made by the dudes who did Amnesia, and I just kind of like how we were talking about Witcher felt like they had to put gameplay into like the cool thing they were doing, maybe because they were a little unsure of themselves. These dudes definitely were unsure of themselves and put like chase sequences and monsters that just kind of like stand in your path and stuff and take away from the one thing you want to do, which is find out more about this world by exploring. It's really fucking irritating. So the game actually ruins what's good about that thing. That's why, like, there's no way I could put it on my top 10. I wanted to so badly, but there was no fucking way. Titan Souls, I thought was a cool little thing, like a cool little pixel arty indie way to do like a Shadow of the Colossus style. I feel like it wasted too much space without any payoff, and I felt like a lot of that detracted from my experience, like having to run across this world with nothing in it. It felt almost like an incomplete game to me, where like, I know the reason why you have to travel around and stuff is to make the monsters or like things you're fighting feel kind of scarier. Like, you're this little thing in this big world, and then you go into this giant cave and there's like a thing there.
Yeah.
But to me, it just felt like there was no reason to walk around this world because there was nothing interesting except for how it looked. There was like nothing. There was no real like feeling of like I stumbled in a secret area and fought a monster. There was one monster that was like obscured, that was like a secret area that you could reach, and it felt cool reaching him. And then like everything else was kind of spelled out for you, like where to go, and I thought that was kind of lame. But yeah, that game's fine. Read Only Memories is like, I don't know how to explain Read Only Memories. It's like the old like Snatcher games, like Snatcher and like the old point and click adventure like games from the 90s and stuff, with futuristic, like not apocalyptic, but like Neo San Francisco type world.
It's like cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah, and it does that well. Not well enough for it to be a game of the year, but it's cute.
Yeah, I mean, your story has to be really good when you're all story.
Yeah,
like the impetus is on like be really good.
Yeah. Pillars of Eternity is the perfect modernization of those old style of games, to the point where if you didn't grow up playing those, it's impossible to break through on. I played a few of them growing up, but the time sink was too much. I couldn't keep up with it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, those old games I never found penetrable, so like I have no nostalgia for that thing, so that the new one didn't hold for me.
Not having nostalgia for that probably won't help. This one's a little bit more penetrable than those were, but like it still you won't get into it if like there's no nostalgia for that type of game. Warhammer End Times Vermintide is what I want Left 4 Dead to be when they make a new one of those. I like how that game plays with like the loot lust and the RPG stuff in it.
Yeah, this is probably the one that that I just didn't play. Like again, and it's like I haven't bought it yet, but it's one of those like if there's a group that wants to play it right now and there's like room for me to play with them, I would probably just buy it right now.
Oh, I bought it for Spart, so me and Spart have it.
Cool.
But you're totally right though. That is a game that if you don't have like 4 people playing, you're not having a good time.
Like I was looking at it on the Steam sale, I'm like, it's only like $5 off. Like actually, I would rather just wait till I know I'm gonna play it and just buy it right then, than like, yeah, I don't know. When I was looking at other stuff that I would rather buy at the moment then.
The problem with Vermintide is that like the big thing you want is to do like the mission or whatever, the story objective and like the side stuff or whatever in that level so you can get more dice for loot at the end. If you're playing with randoms and like the randoms leave and like fuck you over, and you lose, you don't get any loot, period.
Oof.
So you want to be with people you can trust.
Yeah.
Or at least people that listen.
I mean, that sounds required to play with friends. Like that doesn't sound like a good time.
Right.
Like any game that's like people leave and it's ruined, it's real hard for online games to make that work unless there's like a really strict punishment system.
Yeah, for sure. Armello is a thing I wish I had played more of, but that is a cool, what's it called? Like digital board game, I guess.
Yeah.
Strategy board game.
Again, that's one I liked. If I'd ever gotten anyone to play it with me, it would have been on my honorable mentions for sure.
Game's dope.
It's really cool.
Duelist is on my honorable mentions. I don't think we need to talk more about that. Downwell.
Yeah.
Downwell is a great little... Basically, if you took like the very basic essence of what Spelunky is, that's what Downwell is.
Yeah. Yeah, Downwell's super neat, and like $3.
And like $3. For what it is, though, like I kind of wish the jump and the fire button weren't the same, because I think I could strategize how I do stuff a bit better if like there were 2 buttons to push. But that's just a personal thing.
Yeah, I also just don't think like the power up stuff you get is that interesting. Like none of it really changes anything.
Yo, if you get shotgun or like puncher, you're fucked because you only have 2 shots.
Yeah.
And that sucks. If you get machine gun though, you're pretty good because then you can float, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that thing's fun. It's literally not on my list because it was one of those that's like I don't really know that I have anything to say about Downwell. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's neat.
Dirty Bomb is a great free-to-play, objective-based, like, team deathmatch shooter type thing with different classes. It's basically, like, Overwatch is going to overtake it easily, obviously.
Yeah.
But Dirty Bomb is out. So, I had a lot of fun with that game, though. It takes a little bit more of, like, a Call of Duty feel over, like, a goofy Team Fortress feel, but it's still goofy enough that like it's not self-serious in how it plays or anything like that.
Yeah, I played Dirty Bomb. That game was okay. I wasn't that into it. My bigger problem was like I felt like some of the maps had really hard choke points.
They did.
Where people would just hold them, and then I was like, well, now what do I do?
The problem with that game is that the map design it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And if I remember, there was like some overpowered thing that was happening where like people who played a certain character or class or whatever could just like own everybody, and it was really fucked. I don't know if they changed that or not. I'm sure they did because like people were screaming about it, but Secret Ponchos. Secret Ponchos boils down MOBAs even more into like an action shootery thing, and it's actually kind of fun. That's a fun little thing. The problem with that game is that it doesn't have a user base. Yeah. So like you're never going to be able to play it. Which is really unfortunate. The aesthetic is great, like the old spaghetti western west style stuff. Like all of that's great, but it doesn't have the player base to make it what it should be, and that's really disappointing.
And it's not the kind of game you're like necessarily going to get a group of friends together to just play some Secret Ponchos against each other. I don't know.
It's it's the closest I'll ever get John to play a MOBA.
Fair enough.
And he had a good time. So maybe Heroes of the Storm is next. I don't know. Probably not.
But yeah, but it sounds like it just doesn't sound like it's structured around that. It sounds like it's more structured around competitive play.
It totally is, yeah. They used the term Smash Bros. A lot, which was disappointing to me because, like, I know why they're doing it. Marketing terms and stuff, Smash Bros. Is hotter than any MOBA for, like, player bases and stuff. But I like MOBAs better, and it plays like a MOBA.
And you don't have Nintendo characters. Like, other people can't get away with what Smash Brothers is because they don't have the characters. Like,
right.
That people know already.
And it's not competitive in the same way. It is actually, like, I know they keep denying it. It plays like a MOBA. And I don't care what they say as the developers. They're wrong. It is competitive in the way a MOBA is. It is not competitive in the way a Smash Brothers or a fighting game is. Yeah. And if they don't recognize that, that's just a personal failing on their part. Because that's, as somebody who has played a lot of video games and has gotten decent at talking about them at best, like, dude, that's a fucking MOBA. Fuck off. Don't even give me this shit right now.
Yeah. Multiplayer battle arena.
Yeah, exactly. Axiom Verge was on my honorable mentions because while I think it is more Metroid in the Metroidvania type scheme of things, I didn't necessarily want a new Metroid.
Yeah.
But like it kept me engaged enough that I thought it was worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
fine.
I barely played any of it. I played it at like a kiosk and a Target. I played like the beginning of that game.
Yeah.
And just was not feeling it enough to ever commit to buying it.
The music is dope though. I'll give it that. The music is real good.
Yeah, for me, it was like in that starting area in Target, I was already feeling the tedium of having to shoot things that took too many bullets.
The weird thing is that like later on in that game, you get a lot of weaponry.
Oh yeah.
But you'll only ever use one because like it has the thing of like I have a lot of stuff, but this is the best one, so I'm just going to use that. Like there's no point in giving me this other shit.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that even from people who really like the game.
Mm-hmm. On the other side of the spectrum for Castlevania games, Odalis the Dark Call got like no love and respect except from one person I followed because like I knew that out of all the people on the internet, he would be the one probably to talk about this game, and he was the only one on the internet. Besides, like when I was talking honorable mentions, I didn't get to talk a lot about it. Odalis the Dark Call is more like an old style Castlevania, and that's what I want because I fucking hate what Symphony of the Night has done to that formula for that game. I love how those old games played. It's not even just like a nostalgia thing. I liked how like there was different weaponry to like change how you would look at a layout of like the screen or whatever and get past it. I like that there was a small delay in your attack to make like your timing have to be kind of a little bit off or whatever. It wasn't just kind of like it was more thought out, like not just kind of trigger happy sort of thing. And like later on they added more like RPG elements like level up and you get new abilities and like you can change your cloak out and stuff. And this has a little bit of that, but it kind of plays more like Castlevania 3, which is like my favorite one.
Nice.
So Odalis the Dark Call is to Castlevania what like Shovel Knight was to like Contra and Mega Man. It is like the perfect modernization of an old style. And I'm really sad that not more people knew about it, but it wasn't really marketed. It was one of those things that like I found on Steam and figured, oh, this is going to be like, this dude is going to be the only guy that talks about this in the end of the year. And sure enough, he was the only fucking dude that talked about it. Because the reason I follow him is he does like a lot of small indie shit. He like looks up a lot of that stuff. So I was like, yeah, he's the only one. He's the only one that's going to talk about it.
Does it do the thing with Castlevania where when you get hit, you like fly backwards?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I know that's annoying to a lot of people. I like it.
Fair enough. I just think but one thing for me with that is it's weird when you like get turned around and stuff. It just acts in weird ways sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't have that problem, it seems. It seems like that was probably a problem with the coding for those old games.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. the big one I have to talk about. Honey Pop almost made it really high on my top 10. Like, but I didn't know, like, Rainbow Six Siege wasn't on there for a while at number 7. Everything else was pushed back, and Honey Pop was, like, my number 3 game of the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Honey Pop is the perfect culmination of addictive gameplay styles thrown into one, like they used to do them on Newgrounds.
Uh-huh.
It is RPG elements with a dating sim and match 3. It's gross how many good things are thrown together in there, and then anime boobs. That, like, the problem I have with Honey Pop is when I talk about it, people usually just kind of, like, go like, oh, yeah, you pervert weeboo fuck, and, like, just whatever, right? Because, like, what they see or have seen are the scantily clad pictures and like all the weird shit that you see when you look that game up. What they don't see is match 3 puzzling, which is actually very, very good. You mix in there some power-ups, which like make it feel like there's some strategy to it. The dating sim aspect is actually pretty good. Like, you have to kind of have an idea of what the different girls will like for presents and stuff, and then they'll open up more dialogue options for you, which will give you more, I guess they just call it honey in that, because why not? And the honey is what you, like, upgrade stats with, so you can, like, do better with them on the dates, which is the match 3. It all mixes together so well, and if you hadn't played it, you wouldn't know that, and you would just think everybody that likes that game is a pervert, when really we just like good video games. And it's a shame, because how Ori will be remembered for just being beautiful, Honey Pop will only be remembered for being boobs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a shame. And the way Wayward's talking about it, too, yeah, the day Paul spent the whole night 100%ing it, yo, I burnt myself out on that game so hard, because I played it all night.
Yo, I watched that for everything you streamed.
Yeah.
I was there the whole time. Fuck.
The weird thing about that game, too, is that, like, in that stream started off as, like, laughing at, like, oh, look at this. This is, like, kind of racist. Oh, my God. Can they even talk about this?
There's some...
Like, and then after that, like, cut forward 5 hours, and it's just like, okay, if I do this, then I can get this, which will level me up. Like, you start min-maxing, and it's really weird. I don't know. That's a weird game that is amazing. The more I'm talking about it, I kind of want to kick Undertale off my game of the year. Because Honey Pop actually had more going for it for me in the way the game plays. But Undertale had, like... Oh my God, it had Papyrus jumping out the window.
Yo, Papyrus jumping out the window.
It's the best part in a video game all year.
That was when it cracked me. My heart was hardened against Undertale. And then Papyrus jumped out the window and it shattered.
Unfortunately, though, that is like 7 hours.
And then it made me laugh again when the dog was in the like cupboard in that same scene. Like the wink.
Yeah.
It had me dying again. Those are like the only two where it was like I just laughed out loud completely. It's just I can't take it because they were timing based. Like just the timing and then the sound effect was too good.
Actually, I found a lot of the timing pretty good in that game. It was pretty good. Especially what I really liked though, like in that same part actually. Let's just talk about this part in Undertale.
Well, that part is amazing. That people have played that game and think they've played it and not seen that part
is amazing to me. I know.
What the fuck are you even doing, man?
Other good timing stuff in that is when like Undyne is talking to you, and then she's just like, I know, you'll take his place, and then music cues up, and you're just like, oh, this is so good.
Dude, I love like Undyne talking about like defeating you in friendship. Like we'll be besties. Oh, it's so good.
And like her face and stuff in the little picture, it's like will be, and then she has like the giant like open mouth like laughing yelling face like besties. It's
really good. It's really good.
No, fuck it. Honey Pop stays in honorable mentions. Undertale still number 3.
All right.
Yeah, I changed my mind. I can't believe there's people that haven't seen that part. That's arguably one of the best parts in that game for me.
Yo, it's the fucking like trash, like the when you find Undying again and ask in the on like the date part.
Oh, where Alphys is like screaming like "Take me Undyne" or something, and she's
Yeah.
like, what?"
Yeah, that scene's amazing. And then like where they're all in the same room at the very end of the pacifist run, where they're all talking to each other. Those are like the three scenes.
Yo, you know what's really good about that scene with Alphys and Undyne
What?
is that like Alphys finally gets out that she really likes Undyne. And then, like, the music starts playing, and Undyne's just like, "You're a brilliant person, but you lack, like, self-respect or something." And she's just, like, yelling at her, and the music's playing. Just like, yes, this is so good.
I love, like, Alphys confesses her fucking what she's been lying about, and Undyne's like, "Yeah, it's nice. I don't care about any of that. Just care about you're passionate."
Yeah, Alpha's getting thrown in the trash can. Holy fuck, there is so much good about that part. Everything that's really good about that game is after that shitty neutral ending.
I mean, technically the Papyrus and Undying, like the cooking scene, isn't. You can get that before you do the neutral ending on the regular run. That
Oh,
scene,
if you go back.
yeah, you can. As I think you might have to. I don't know what you have to do to be able to do that, but I definitely did that in my neutral playthrough run. Like I had done that before I got the neutral ending, so you can do that. But
Well, that's good to know.
yeah, but I think you have to be not killing people to a certain extent for that to happen.
Oh,
Obviously, Papyrus and Undying have to be alive.
but that ending where you're being attacked and like they're all standing up to help you. Holy
Yeah.
fuck, it's so good.
The pacifist ending is the best part. Like people who played that game and not seen the pacifist ending, I don't know. Like again, it's like, oh, it's a shame. It's a shame that like the best stuff, like easily the best stuff in that game, is hidden behind that gameplay wall.
Yeah. But fuck, is it good? Holy shit, is it ever good?
It's really good.
It's just too bad that the gameplay is so bad.
It's and it's exactly the kind of storytelling I like, which is characters interacting in ways that like push stuff forward. Like that's my jam. I need one character is like whatever. Two characters interacting and playing off each other. You got me.
Sure. Did
And
you get my
like,
message on Steam?
Yes, I did.
You agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, okay. Okay, cool.
Like, although again, this is just gonna have. Do you want to talk about movie wrap-ups at all, or not, or just video games?
I just realized like what time it is.
Yeah, I think just video games.
Yeah, just video games. We'll do another one this weekend, maybe actually.
Yeah,
Like, are you free Friday? Maybe we could do one Friday.
sure. Did you want to? I know Sean's had said he wanted to be on the movie thing if we did a movie thing.
That's right. I should actually. I'll talk to him tomorrow, obviously.
Okay, so we can do like a special movie thing.
Cool. Yeah, that'll work. I think there's a little bit more to talk about games in general, because
Sure.
one of the things that we talk about is the 20XX like game of the year for 2015 or whatever. I hate this fucking category because who cares about like what people played that didn't come out that year, in my opinion. But my answer for that was Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that kit went over well with some people, because I saw a lot of people in chat just being like, "Oh, okay." Because like I know like if I remember, some people were saying like, "Was there a D&D game that came out?" It's like, no, just Dungeons and Dragons, like the old '80s or game.
I mean, it's a multiplayer game. We played it online.
And we sunk so much time
Yeah.
into Dungeons and Dragons that like if it wasn't just like video games of the year or like 2015 game of the year, that was my actual game of the year. Because months were spent. Actual months of time. But I thought it would be kind of disingenuous to how much was put into those and like how fun we had if we didn't talk about that game.
Yeah. No, that was a lot of fun this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we never even did a wrap up on Deep Sea Deep Freeze Follies on the podcast. But that fucking adventure was amazing. I had so much fun in that.
The way that ended too for
Oh
people
my
should go
God.
check that out if they haven't seen that.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
It was so right. It was correct.
it was. Yeah, no, it was perfect. I wasn't expecting it either.
No.
I don't think anybody even plain expected it. And Steven really didn't expect it, which was even funnier. But, like, yeah, we spent a lot of time doing that. Between Yalton, we had We're Not Soldiers, The Huntsman, Troubadours, Deep Freeze Follies with Tony. You and I did Apocalypse World for a few weeks.
Yeah.
I tried running Call of Cthulhu, which was meh, but I had fun, so I don't really care.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, like, tabletop came back in a big bad way for me this year.
Yeah, I'd never really played tabletop that way before. Like, it always been impenetrable to me. So getting into it was fucking great.
Yeah. This, and like, I've said this before, but like, in a weird way, it kind of ruined video games for me. Because it's like, yeah, your RPG's great and all, but like, in this form of RPG, I can literally do anything my imagination says. Because you can't, when you have like a DM or a GM as basically your like game engine, there is absolutely nothing you can't do and get a response somehow. And it took me a long time to finally see like why people love this game, and it is easily the best game ever made, to the point where there's different variations and people like putting different rule sets and stuff, calling their games different names by like changing small things. It all started with this.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I mean, like, it's one impetus. It's like a really good high, and it better be, because the fucking investment you have to put in to make the thing work and make it happen is a lot.
It's
you have to
huge.
put a lot of time into investment into making it just at a get together happen. So it's really good that it all pays off, and you like fucking love it because it makes it all worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't wait for this year either. We have a lot of, we're going to be planning a lot of shit, so that's going to be fun. Like, I already, so, like, I don't know if we've ever discussed how we come up with these ideas for campaigns. But, like, just to pull that curtain back a little bit, there's literally just a document of dumb ideas. That was like, how could we work this in a way if we like something? And I don't know how it's worked out so far, but it has in a weird way.
Deep Freeze Follies was, I think, the most successful out of that so far, by far, though.
For sure.
Like, just dumb idea, fucking executed amazingly.
For sure. I definitely agree.
It's also easy for me because I can just say dumb things, and then Tony like put in the work of figuring out all the fucking details of making it work.
Oh, for sure. Tony
I,
like is amazing.
Yeah. But I like coming up with dumb ideas. That's fun.
Yeah. Anything else game related you want to talk about?
Video games. Warframe.
Like recently, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Warframe has been, that game's real good. They added a lot to that game since I played.
Yeah.
It's addictive.
Oh, it just, the mechanics are just so fucking good. Jumping around, the shooting feels pretty good. The fucking melee is amazing. It's really good.
The only problem with it is that if you don't get into that gameplay loop, like it can lose you. Because it is just the kind of the same missions over and over in different places.
I mean, for me, I'm hitting a wall in terms of being able to play on myself. Is I maxed out all my starting gear level, and then I built new weapons. Like, I got new weapons for everything, and I've just been leveling up, and I'm just like, I'm just not feeling it as much anymore.
Yeah, because you're not overpowered anymore. Like, it's, yeah.
No, I've been doing missions where I was still overpowered because I was trying to do this fucking quest of getting this egg, and it just wasn't dropping. Like, it has a really low drop rate, and I was just, like, every day I was just popping in and doing it, and just fucking murdering everyone really quickly, but it wasn't It wasn't doing it, but also like I just don't feel the progression right now. Like I don't know what I actually would be fighting for
Sure.
because I have the gear I would want that I can fucking like afford, and like I mean I don't have a new Warframe, but I don't even know. I would have to go searching. It's like the next step up is so much more work
Yeah.
that I'm comfortable putting in that I don't know that I'll ever get there.
Yeah, and like that game is not user friendly.
Nope.
It's like the menu system UI is really convoluted. If you don't have like a wiki open, you don't even know which Warframe you want because like you won't know what powers you get from them. It's weird. It's a weird thing.
Like right now, I could build an Oberon, but I don't know that I want an Oberon.
I have one.
Yeah. Like that's just the one I happen to have gotten the head, chest, and systems for. So
Yeah.
and I have the stuff. I could get it, but I played a lot of Warframe.
Yeah.
The last couple days. It's fun. The movement, like the jumping and stuff, is just really good. That's what makes that game.
Warframe's real good. It could be better though, but it's free, so it's hard to complain. So
Yeah. But I think that's it for video game stuff for me.
yeah, that's a pretty big rundown, I think. And then we'll run down movies, and then we'll probably do just like a normal episode at some point too, where we'll talk about recent things.
Yeah.
Because there's recent things as well.
Yo, I've been watching this anime.
Yeah.
It's real. It's pretty old. Called Rose of Versailles.
Okay.
It's about the it's like about the head sort of guard for Queen Marie Antoinette in pre-revolutionary France,
Okay.
and like her guard is this. So he's the one like main fictional character in the story, who is this woman Oscar, who was raised by her father to be a boy because he never had a son, so he like trained her to be a boy. You know, that show's real good. It like it it's it was originally apparently designed, it was just going to be about Marie Antoinette, which would have been horrible because like the
Yeah.
whole appeal of the show is like these people in this aristocracy in France is fucking horrible, and they're like their petty like squabbles are just fucking disgusting. But like what makes it engaging is this character of Oscar, who's like looking in and saying this is fucked. Like it's like your audience surrogate character. It's just really good. It's just fun. It's like for an old anime, it's just really fucking good. It's also super influential in my favorite stuff, specifically Utena.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so that's I've been really enjoying that.
That's the recent stuff for you, basically.
That and I finally watched Kill la Kill, which I had watched like 4 episodes of when it came out, and then put down for later and never got around to. That show's really good. That's a really good action show.
From what I've been told, like I watched 4 episodes as well,
Yeah.
and I was just like, I'm not feeling it. And somebody's like, please just get to episode 12 or something like that. I was like, oh, okay, one day.
Like, I mean, what's good about it is for an action show, anime in particular, it's just well paced. Like it comes to a conclusion of everything it's set up, sort of, for the most part, by like episode 12, by the halfway point. And then it's set up a couple like new threads at that point to then carry you over into like the bigger story of the second half of the series. Most of what that show does well is pacing and just on action stuff. So like if you're not feeling the setting of the characters, maybe it wouldn't work for you, but I just think it's paced really well. I'm gonna write up and put it on my tier list at some point.
Cool. Look forward to that then. See where it ranks. I've been watching a lot of Steven Universe. Which reminds me, I want to talk to you about something after we're done here. It's a rip-off idea of something I want to do for a podcast, maybe.
Sure.
But I think we're done for now.
Yeah, like I've definitely got plenty of movies I can talk about, but I'll save those.
Yeah, one of which Nathan actually unhid himself from the shadows to.
Oh yeah. The fucking he left a comment on one of my reviews, dude. He called me out. He called me out on my fucking hateful review for Bridge of Spies.
Like, and for people who might not know listening, this is a big deal because dude like doesn't go on the internet anymore. like at all. So the fact that he took time to read, like, I know he still reads stuff on the site regularly, but
Mhm.
the fact that he took time to like log in and type up something is amazing.
So A, I didn't know he was reading stuff on the site, and B, like just seeing that message, I was like, holy shit, it's amazing. I wrote a pretty long response to what he wrote too.
Yeah, I saw. Well, I didn't read the response or like
Yeah,
his thing even, but
I
I
mean, he liked the movie that I said was a garbage movie for
for
people too
stupid
dumb
people
to
or something.
have people too dumb to have thoughts or emotions on their own. That was the tagline, like intro sentence for that article. I did not have a good time watching that, but
We could talk more specifically about why next time.
yeah,
But yeah, that's just the funny thing. That's on the
just
site if you want to read that.
yeah. If you want to get some thoughts from Nathan, that
Yeah.
happened.
For just like housekeeping stuff, I think like I know we're getting like just as a personal note, I know we're getting some new person at work I'm going to be training, but I think they're like going to be working on my schedule, so I'm not going to have to do extra shifts in theory. So I think we're back to normal. We might be able to do like regular-ish shows. I don't know if one a week is necessarily going to be like the standard, but we can't let it go as long as last time. Like at least once every 2 weeks would be
Yeah.
good too. Or some because like we do long shows anyway, so once every 2 weeks for like 6 hours or 4 hours or whatever the fuck we do, like that's probably equivalent to a weekly show for an hour
Hmm.
for most people. So
Yeah.
but like yeah, like things will be back normal there. Um I think Spaghetti Cast, aka or now known as Bottom of the Barrel podcast, is more regular. I know Ben's been having internet issues,
Yeah.
but there are some of those on the site. So Spaghetti Cast is back, but without Ty, I think is the
Although
idea.
they were talking about on Twitter of having Ty on recording with Ty at some point, so I don't know.
I think the reason for that too is that like there's no conspiracy. Ty is like been doing a lot of work lately, and he's just never around.
Yeah.
Like there's no hatred or bad blood or anything. It's just literally they wanted to do podcasts, and Ty's not around, unfortunately. Um, I want to bring Retro Kill Screen back. Th-
Uh,
that is
yes. Do
that
it.
that is on the agenda docket for like early this year,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know when, so I can't say anything about that yet.
All right.
But other than that, we'll talk about stuff as they come up. More D&D stuff will come up as usual and stuff. So yeah, hope you all had a great 2015, and here's to the shit show that's going to be around for this year. Oh man. All right, have a good night everybody.
See ya.